Hello, everybody. Surprise! I'm not Dr. Ben. Changed the last minute. Hey everyone. This is the Transatlantic Call-In Show, the place where you guys get to call in and talk to two trans people about all your questions, everything and anything trans related. I am your surprise host for the day, Arden, and with me is, of course, the lovely Josie Caballero. How you doing, Josie?
I am doing well. It's nice to be back. It's been a minute since I've been here. But yeah, I feel like it's nice and cozy and perfect to always be here. So I'm
Oh,
doing it. I'm like doing, four major things. So nothing too much. Nothing too different from my normal life.
I was gonna say nothing new for you. You're always doing a million huge, important things. I this past weekend I was at NanoCon, the Nashville Nuns Convention, which is like an atheist convention, but it was very focused on like coalition building beyond the secular spaces. But I got to meet some great people who are working in Nashville. And they were a lot like you, where they're all doing a million things that were really important. And I was like, I'm an internet person. Like, listen, I've done organizing, I've done protests and counter protests, but for the most part now, I'm an internet person, and it makes me feel so insecure compared to people who are like really doing so much hard work on the ground every single day for people in these deep red states. And I'm always blown away by how much energy you and people like that have. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you. And but this is one of my happy places. It's like where I get to like just take a break and not think about all the things that I'm doing, even though I'll be talking about how I'm running for office and please donate to make sure I hit my goal this month. Today's the last day for that goal. So
Oh shit. All right, chat,
I
you heard
know.
it.
You goals, I have them and you need to help me achieve them. Go to josieformaryland.com.
Absolutely fucking do that. You guys know we all love Josie and everything she does, and this is a great opportunity for you to help out. So definitely consider doing that. Just a few housekeeping things. So the number is 720-619-2288. You don't have to be a pro-trans ally, but you do kind of have to engage honestly with questions. And hopefully we can have a respectful back and forth dialogue. Had it a couple times lately. We've had some good calls who were like maybe not on our side, but there was some really good productive conversation and some less productive conversation. So, I definitely prefer it when it gets productive. Um, so housekeeping things tomorrow, even though the event's not posted, it is either going to be myself or Forrest Valakai hosting with Zena Weena from TikTok. She's been on multiple Jubilee things, the whatever podcast, doing some debates tomorrow night. So keep your eyes out for that when the event gets posted. We're going to be doing more of those Patreon events. If you didn't hear last night, we're starting this thing called LineCon Online, or we had called them LineCon Mini. I kind of feel like I like that better, but I'm not sure. They're going to be like mini conferences. Once a month, we're going to have 3 of our people here at the line or friends and guests from outside the line give like small 15 to 20 minute little lectures and talks. And that'll be available to patrons of the $15 tier or above. And of course, everyone on the Patreon gets access to the ad-free version of the podcast. And eventually you get your names on the credits at the end of every episode and all that good stuff. So lots of cool stuff coming up. But obviously donate to Josie from Maryland.
Ah.
Yeah.
We've almost broke over 100 donors so far. So it's like
Nice.
we're getting there. So let's prove them all wrong. Let's make a trans Latina veteran Trump's next door neighbor because it's right across the street from DC.
His worst nightmare.
His worst nightmare. Like, I'm Latina and I'm a veteran trans woman. Like, everything that he has tried to make disappear in this country, I will stand there and be like, you can't get rid of me. I'm elected.
Yeah.
Try it.
And try it, they will, as we've seen in the
It will.
fucking New York mayor general coming up. They're investing so much money to subvert the democratic process and try to take Zoran's win away. I don't think it'll be successful, but
No.
I've been proven wrong multiple times about politics in the last 10 years. And so I'm fully embracing the possibility that I'm wrong on this one too, but I don't think I am. I think Zoran is just genuinely too popular.
I think so too.
So we do have a few open lines, but we're going to touch on some polls. We're going to look at last week's poll, talk about it, look at this week's poll, and then we're going to move on and take some calls. So let's see what we have. So last week's poll read, can trans people and their allies be blamed if they refuse to vote for anti-trans Democratic candidates like Gavin Newsom for president? Let me tell you, y'all, this one was spicy. 27% said yes, and 73% said no. So I will tell you guys, I even kind of said yes last week. Like, to a certain extent, failing to vote for the candidate in the general election kind of earns you blame, right? But to me, the way I view this, and people in the comments of this did not understand my point at all. In no way am I saying that Gavin Newsom is as bad as or worse than the Republicans. He's obviously better. Indisputably, he is better on trans issues than Republicans. But this is the difference between someone who's stabbing me in the ribs and then spitting on my face and someone who's kicking me in the ribs and spitting on my face. The difference is really small. Am I going to vote for the guy who's going to kick me instead of stab me? Yeah, I am. But it doesn't mean I like either or that I have to pretend that he's great when he's fucking not. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Josie?
Oh my gosh, this is so timely considering Pete Buttigieg did a really good swift kick to the ribs just just like 2 days ago or yesterday.
I
It's like
know.
it just never fucking stops. It is so frustrating right now. And so this is where we are. We are at a state right now in our climate that we are falling decades behind, and we are at a point where we have to start playing 4D chess in a way that is like, we need to make the next best move on the chessboard right now, because if we don't,
Mhm.
we're going to be checkmated soon. Like, this is where we are in the corner. We need to do the next best move. And let me tell you, so right now we have currently probably 5 states, including Texas this year, so 5 states next year, that are going to be putting public ballot initiatives on the ballot. And it is incredibly scary. This is states like Colorado, California, Washington, Missouri, possibly even North Carolina. We're probably going to see things happen in Ohio. Only one really good one is going to be happening in Oregon, which is an equal rights amendment. That's a good one. But everything else is trash. It's garbage. We cannot allow these things to happen. And this is very, very similar to what happened during marriage equality. In 2004, there was a lot of ballot initiatives that basically enshrined in their constitutions marriage equality, or sorry, not marriage equality, but marriage is between a man and a woman. That's it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And because of that, places like Michigan still have that in their constitution, that marriage is between a man and a woman. So that was over 20 years ago, and it's still there. So when these states start passing gender affirming care bans in their by public ballot, when they start passing sports bans by public ballot, when they start passing redefinition of gender and in their ballot and sex and gender, we're going to see these bills for the next 20 years. That's a whole generation's worth of time almost, right? We are going to be dealing with the blemishes of us not being involved in the political environment already, that is going to reverberate, where our kids and grandkids are going to have to fix the mess that our generations put onto them. So we need to just suck it up and do the right thing, so therefore we can hold these assholes accountable.
Mhm.
Because I'd rather be recovering from a bruise than a knife wound gouged, bleeding out. And that's where we are right now,
Yeah.
and it's incredibly frustrating. And I will also kind of twist this premise a little bit too, about the fact that we can't say that they're anti-trans. They're just trans cowards. They're cowards. They aren't necessarily anti-trans. They're just cowards, the public opinion, or what they think is the thing that will get them the votes.
Mhm.
The people who are actually anti-trans are Trump and all of the Republicans that are actually wanting to eradicate our existence, meaning they want to remove us from existing. People like Gavin Newsom are just political opportunists, cowardly people that are thinking that if I pass in my bloody chip of trans people, I can then be the president.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's cowardly, but I don't think they would eliminate me. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I'm not sure at this point, but we need to make sure we have the ability to vote in the future, because the alternative is we're never going to vote again, and now we're going to have an authoritarian regime that isn't going to go get deposed until the guillotines come out. Like that's where we're at. That's where we're at, and we got to do everything we can, because this election that is coming up in 2028 may be our last. And I don't mean that with hyperbole. That is a very, very real thing.
Yeah. I think it's frustrating to me because I think you're completely right that Gavin Newsom is a political opportunist here, right? He sees that, the public is Trump is underwater on almost every issue, except for how he's treating trans people. I mean, that may have changed since I last saw polling, but new polling's come out on all the other issues. It hasn't come out on the trans issue. That was the case a few months ago, and I think he's trying to capitalize on that. And but what I also see is candidates like AOC, who for all her imperfections has been a largely phenomenal representative, who has been unabashedly pro-trans, who's been saying nonstop trans people are a part of our coalition. Let's not throw them under the bus. Zoran Mamdani dominated his election, marched in the Pride parade like a few days later, holding a trans pride flag. I don't think you need to sacrifice trans people. I think what Zoran shows me, and I may be wrong because I'm not, a political analyst here or anything, I'm just a person with opinions, is he gave the American people not necessarily policies that I think that he can always realistically achieve, right? He didn't necessarily put forward policies that are like practical or necessarily always achievable, and they may well be achievable, but I'm saying he gave a lot of what a lot of people are considering outlandish ideas, but I don't think that's the point. I think the point is he's giving us a vision. What can we as Americans be? Can we be a society where homeless people don't have to sleep on the streets and in the subway? Because if we can, that should be a thing we work towards, right? What if we work towards somewhere where transportation was free and accessible in cities? What if we work towards a society where good, healthy, not over processed food is subsidized by the state so that people can get the healthiest food in the most affordable way possible? I think those are great ideas. And I really think that's what the Democratic Party is missing out on. Not only is he unabashedly pro-Palestine, and he isn't even really anti-Israel. He's, anti-ethno-state, which I think is reasonable. But he's so pro-Palestine. That's polling so well with young people. And he's giving us a real vision. And I think that's what Americans are missing. It's not about necessarily nailing every policy in a way that appeals to the broadest group of people possible. I think it's giving them an idea. This is what I'm building towards. This is what I'm pushing us towards. And I really need to see more of that and less of these focus-tested, phrase-generating politicians who are just trying to capture the biggest bucket possible. I don't think we need the biggest bucket possible. I do think we need broad coalitions of voters, but we're in like a top-down scenario, the billionaire executive elite class who are protecting fucking pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein, and the rest of us who are suffering to make ends meet. And I think Zoran represents a solution to that.
I also want to mention this too about this question as well, and this is tending to happen a lot recently, and it's kind of frustrating. And like, so when Pete Buttigieg said the thing about sports and was like, it's about fairness and blah blah blah, and it was like really frustrating. Everybody jumped to the conclusion. It's like, but if he was the person that we had to elect for president in the general election, would you not vote for him? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, honestly, I'm more worried about the primary and voting for the person that is best for the primary than talking about the 6-month run up to the general election after the primaries are done. Like, we immediately hone in on that 5-month period after the Democratic convention and say, but what if it's this person? Wouldn't you vote for them then? It's like, we're not even there yet. We don't even know who the presidential candidates are going to be. We don't know how competitive the primaries are going to be. We have the opportunity to fight for the best candidate right now, and that's what we should spend all of our energy instead of playing these what if scenarios. I think these what if scenarios are trying to I'm going to say it. They're trying to groom us into this false dichotomy that we have to make this Sophie's choice again. I
Mhm.
want to fight against the Sophie's choice again. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is making sure we support the best candidates in the primary. So
Yep.
that way we don't have to make this choice, right? I don't want to see the Gavin Newsom going into the general election. I want to see somebody who is right on the issues, that is going to protect all people, including trans people, and win a general election. I want to ask the question back at them. If a Bernie Sanders was the person that you had to choose in the general, would you choose then? We never challenge them that way, right? It's always, are
Yeah.
you going to advocate your life and responsibility for this presidential candidate? It's like, well, we already know that if it was a Bernie Sanders on the ticket, I'm not saying this cycle because he's way too old at this point, but back then, like, people didn't even want to talk about, oh, if it was Bernie, I don't know if I would vote, right?
Yeah.
People are doing that right now with Zoran, right? Where it's like, well, Zoran may have won the Democratic primary in New York, but Hakeem Jeffries hasn't come out to support him. We already have all these terrible things happen. All these terrible Democrats already not claim support for Zoran when he won the primary. We are already seeing the example of the Democratic leadership already waffling on a progressive choice that the Democrats have already chosen in a primary. So we need to start interrogating them. We need to say, if it was Tim Walz, would you vote for Tim Walz for president? If that's what the Democrats chose in the primary, let's see how they answer the question then. Like, let's throw a hypothetical. It's like, what if it was AOC? Would you vote for her then if it was a general election? And you can just see them melt in their seats. Why do we always have to answer the question the other way around?
Yeah.
It's really frustrating.
100%. I think Lux framed this last week as something along the lines of like we're preemptively blaming trans people for something that hasn't even happened yet, something that we're not even at that place yet. We asked this question because people were having that reaction that Josie's talking about, that people are kind of already doing this thing where we're kind of preemptively blaming trans people. And I think Josie's completely right that like we never do this when the shoe's on the other foot. And yet we actually have good reason to think it's a problem when the shoe's on the other foot because of Zoran. Like, look at what the Democratic establishment is doing. Like, the people of New York City clearly said, this is our candidate. This is who we want to support. And rather than dump all of that money all into his pocket to ensure there is no chance, not a sliver of a wink of a chance of anyone upsetting that race, they're going to try to upset it to prevent a socialist from taking over. Like, it's pathetic. And genuinely,
Pathetic.
we are going to cause our own downfall. I'm very afraid for what the future holds, but we've got a show.
We
So
do got a show.
well, I'm gonna read you guys this week's poll and then drop it in the chat. We'll come back and talk about it more in detail later. But this week's poll is the closing of the Center for Trans Youth Health and Development in LA by hospital leaders tantamount to patient abandonment? So I'll let you guys brew on that for a little while. But we've got some callers on the line. Are you ready to jump into it, Josie?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Let's talk to our first caller on the line here. Michael, out of Ohio, pronouns are he, him, has questions about the interplay of societal expectations and people's feelings. So, Michael, you are live on the line with Arden and Josie. Tell us what's going on.
Hello.
Hello.
Listening for a long time and first time calling in, and so I appreciate you guys taking the call and the time. I have a question that it came up, I don't know, about a month or two ago as my wife and I were talking in the car one time, and it was one of those questions that I was like, I don't know how to Google this, and I feel like there's people that would know the answer to it like more easily off the top of their heads, and I don't know how to like look into an answer for this question. Which is essentially what we were talking about was if the gender norms of our society or of a society, like if they changed drastically, would that change the number of people who identified as trans or who were trans and actually went through the full process of transition? In your opinion or in research, like would that change the overall number, I guess?
You can start. Go ahead.
Can you Yeah, and I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I got a teeny bit distracted. Can you just ask that question really quickly again? I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure I'm
sure.
answering it correctly. Okay, go ahead.
Not at all. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not 100% on how to phrase it. So please, like, tell me if I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. The idea being like, if the gender norms or the societal expectations of men or women were different or changed, in our country, would the number of trans individuals or the number of people who actually fully transitioned change as well?
So
Does that
I
make
think
sense?
I get what you're saying. Yes, and so like if you're saying in a hypothetical world where like gender roles were reversed, right? Like let's say
Yeah.
people who okay, I do believe it would be the exact same almost. Genuinely. It is one of the situations where we have I say this a lot in my own personal transition. As a trans person or as a human in America, in just society, and I'll just use American society to be more clear, I was
Hmm.
born into a society that already had the social construction of what gender is. My presentation is not my interpretation of the gender societal, social construction that exists. I just live in that world, and therefore the way that I present is that. It's not like I'm naturally inclined to put on makeup, right? It's not like, oh, ever since a
Hmm.
little kid, I just wanted to put on makeup. There's no reason why, right? Like it was
Hmm.
because of the social construction around me. I, related with my mother and my sister and my female
Hmm.
friends. Like all of that was part of like, this is what society sees as femininity and womanhood. So therefore, as me, as a binary trans woman who's very in touch with my feminine side of like the femininity scale of feminine expression, it just happened to be that. Now, if it was the opposite, I would be doing the opposite, right? Like if that's what the social construction was, right? So that's my point of view on it. And that's why for me, that's how I see it in myself, and that's why I feel that I am inclined to be the person that I am today, is because I'm a woman and I just am inside of the social construction of what woman is in America as a feminine woman. I would say as a feminine woman, to be clear.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's not a lot I would add. I mean, I pretty much agree with Josie's assessment that I think if I could be more specific to what I would think in that situation, I would say that probably the same rates of people would be like changing their body, editing their body to feel comfortable in them. I don't know that in like a gender abolished society where we've abolished like gender expectations, I don't know that being trans would make sense in the same way. Like, I, I don't think you'd be really transgressing a social category if the social category didn't exist. Like, it's like a logical truism sort of thing. But I do think the same people would
Hmm.
be like, I wish I had a vagina. I kind of wish I could get surgery to turn my genitals to look like that. Or, I don't feel comfortable with how flat my chest is. I think my chest would look more natural to me with, breast implants or something. I think the same kind of rates of things would happen for people who are experiencing like gender dysphoria, seeking to change their body. Um, as far as people who are doing things for cosmetic reasons, that could change. And there is like a kind of a weird line between gender affirming things and cosmetic things. I think gender affirming things aren't cosmetic, but I know there is like a weird line there. Um, so yeah, I think largely the numbers would stay the same, but I do think the entire meaning of like what is trans would kind of cease to make the same sense, if that makes sense. I think we'd just be like, oh, there's one of those people that alters their body. Okay. And it would just kind of be like a neutral, like somebody who gets piercings or something.
Yeah, and I just want to
Yeah.
add to that too, like the biological markers or the phenotypes of like, if you have testosterone in your body, you're going to have like facial hair and those type of things. And you know, I think even in a world where the social norms are switched or flopped, I would still be uncomfortable having facial hair because the people who don't I would relate more with those people. So it's kind of like what Arden is saying is like, just because the biological like markers and phenotypes of like facial hair, boobs, all that type of stuff would still exist even in a world where either A, gender norms don't exist at all, or B, they are reversed, right? Let's say they're opposite. The fact is they would still be those things that would still like separate you from the people that you feel more comfortable with in a lot of ways. So it's a really complex question, but I do believe that no matter what, there will be trans people in the population, even in a world where there were no gender norms, because of the fact that people may not want to have that beard because it makes them not comfortable, right? Like I think there's a lot there with that as well.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
So it does. Yeah, it absolutely does. And I mean, so I guess a follow up to that, because my wife and I have a clear habit, and we very much try to be open to the idea of like calling out each other's biases when they're not seen. And when we were having the conversation, the way that she was looking at it, I had a moment. I was like, that I understand where you're thinking, but the way that she was phrasing it, I was like, that's getting so close to something that it felt like it was getting close to a thought process that was like kind of messed up, which was she was saying that like if, for example, you know, we didn't care as much about gender norms, or like you were saying, if there was a society that was just like completely absent of gender norms, that a lot of people would not feel the need to transition. And I was like, that feels like it's getting really, really close to saying that like society turns you trans, which
Yeah.
right, like that feels like it's just like knocking on the door of being like, if changes in society would stop people from being trans, like if we just take that a couple steps farther, it really sounds like what you're saying is that you think that our gendered society or gender norms are like causing people to be trans. And I was like, I don't think that's what you're trying to say, but that's what it feels like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I absolutely get why it feels that way, which is why I was like specifically saying like I do think in a gender abolished society, the concept of being trans, it's like incoherent. If men and women don't have roles that are collectively assigned to them, then like no social construction around those groups, then the notion of identifying with or without a group doesn't quite work coherently in that model. Like, but like the same people would still be experiencing the same psychological experience of being in a body. So it's like,
yeah, it's dysphoria still exists no matter what, because of the fact that we would still have science, right? We would still understand why some people have beards and some don't, right? We would still understand why some people develop breasts and some don't. And once we understand the processes of doing that, we would automatically go like, no, I want estrogen in my body because I feel more comfortable with that in my body rather than testosterone, regardless of all of the things that exist around the societal constructs. Like there are some people who only socially transition and they don't really mind the biological dysphoria type stuff that happens over time because of just the different hormones you have in your body. But I would say that, and maybe this is very personal to me, I have gender dysphoria around my social and my personal self. Like my body is part of my dysphoria, but also how I'm viewed in society also has a part of my dysphoria as well. So it like they're so tangled up, it's hard to determine which ones are like which sometimes in certain instances. But I'm pretty sure no matter what the dysphoria, no matter what the social construction is, I would still be aligning myself to the thing that makes me feel the best, which is estrogen in my body. And no matter what societal constructs that exist, estrogen in my body is the better way for me to go. And that's kind of why I think trans people would still exist in that way, because it would be somebody who is assigned male at birth and somebody that wants to appear as, you know, a woman or whatever the social construction in that hypothetical is. It doesn't really matter. Like I want boobs. I can't explain why, but I want them. Like, you know, I have
Yeah.
bottom stuff. Like I can't explain why, but I want it. Like, and I have it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it is so hard for me to kind of like put words to the fact that psychologically it makes me feel better and I'm able to thrive and be happier as a person because I've had access to that medical care. And I think that medical care would still exist regardless of the social constructions.
I think if I can offer one more thing to you, Michael, and then we'll probably move on to the next call, is I think a way to diffuse the problematic feeling element of it is sometimes we talk about this in regard to trans rights because there is so much drama around trans rights, but like similarly, so much of how cis people operate in society would also functionally break down under a gender abolished society, right? Like the concept of like marriage as it exists today would not really make sense under a gender abolished society. Like the concept of like how we organize families and like nuclear family structures would cease to like really make any kind of sense under the structure. Like it's part of why I am like I've often said that gender abolition I think is a good beacon on the hill to move society in the direction towards relinquishing people from the pressures of, you know, social expectations. But I don't think it's realistic, like I think we're ever going to attain. Like it's just it's easy for humans to make heuristics, and the easiest heuristic is that about 50% of the people seem to be one way and about 50% of people seem to be another way. And so it's really easy for us to like structure society around the heuristic that people tend to be on average in one of two groups. But like, yeah, I mean, if we start abolishing gender roles, like so much of the functions of society would start to break down. It wouldn't just make trans stuff not make sense. It would make so much stuff not making sense to the point where it kind of becomes absurdist to even really spend much time thinking about it. Cause it's like, well, that's literally like, I don't think that's possible at all, at least not in the next several thousand years of our lifetime. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to see society go mega woke, but I'm not holding my breath.
People are just tribal, you know? It's like, who knows what it is? It's just, the most important thing I think in this conversation to take away is that there will always be people that want to, you know, have things around their body regardless of the things around them, and that's just how it goes. Like, it's easy for me to walk through life, and I'm very privileged to have, you know, the access to the medical care that I've been able to have access to, that allows me to just walk through life and I don't even have to think about being trans all the time. It's like I can go to an airport bathroom. I could go to the Capitol building and go to the bathroom and nobody's going to stop me because I have that privilege, right? But like it's one of those things where I am a very hyper feminine person, and I think a lot of it has to do somewhat with my dysphoria, and I don't want people to clock me when I'm just walking around. But I think a lot of it also has to do with I'm just comfortable in my own skin as I walk around society. And I'm just privileged to be able to do that, by the way. I'm not saying that it should be anybody's goal or obtaining. It's just who I am and what makes me happy in my mental health and thrive as a human.
Yeah, you have any last thoughts, Michael, before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think I appreciate the information, and I agree. I didn't want to make it seem like overblown to what we were talking about in the car. And I told her, like, I'm going to think about this because, like, the way that you're talking about it just felt a little bit like you weren't really thinking about the implications of the thoughts that you were having. It just kind of like was a gut reaction. And I wanted to get some thoughts about whether or not, I guess, her gut reaction was true, or if you believe that was true, or if there was something that was missing or things. And I appreciate the explanation. That was very, very helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. You have a lovely day.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
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 Yeah, it's kind of an iteration of the thing trans people have been getting forever, which is like if you are on an island alone, would you still have gender dysphoria? And I suspect yes, because I spent
I would.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a physical reaction to it. Well, I mean, it's not physical, obviously, it's like somewhat psychological, but like Lux has described it as sort of like a body map thing, and that's really what it feels like to me, where it's like my body map says this is what the plane looks like, and then it doesn't look like that, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? What's wrong? Why did they give me the wrong map?
Yeah, it is hard to explain because I've been post op now for, well, I guess almost 3 years. I think 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And for me, I don't even think about it anymore. Right?
Mhm.
It's just like it's just what it is. And so for me, it's like it's amazing like how constantly I used to think about it before, and now it's just like I'm just walking around the world and I really don't give a crap. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just really weird how the human body kind of just like says, "Okay, it's done. I don't think about it anymore." Like,
right. You resolve
because
the map distinction, and now your body is like,
it,
oh, cool, everything checks out now. Thanks.
everything checks out, and I don't think about it almost ever.
Mhm.
It's amazing how that worked. But yeah, it's really bizarre, and I can't explain it. It's gender dysphoria. It's confusing.
All right, let's look at the results of the poll in chat before we take our next caller. Lines are pretty much full now, I think. So we will do our best to get to all these calls. We have some great calls on the line. Let's see. So again, that poll was, is the closing of the Center for Trans Youth Health and Development in LA by hospital leaders tantamount to patient abandonment? So wow, with 97% say yes in our current chat poll, and that was with how many votes? 149. Um, so not surprising, our audience is going to be pretty heavily biased on this one, um, for good reason. But yeah, so this is a part of the LA Children's Hospital, a branch of the LA Children's Hospital that had been like honestly one of the biggest um, like sections of a hospital providing this kind of care in the entire world. Um, there was seemingly my understanding, and I may be wrong, from the articles I read, it seems like even a lot of the hospital staff and the center staff were not anticipating this, did not know this was coming, were surprised and upset to hear this information. And so this really seems to be a decision that has come by the leaders at the LA Children's Hospital, potentially investors. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think we've actually gotten a solid reasoning on exactly what's happening yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I would love to know. Um, and yeah, I guess the question is like, there hasn't been any updates on the medical consensus on gender affirming care for trans youth, at least not from like any US bodies. There haven't been any laws that would force this company to, or this, part of the hospital to close down yet. Um, and so it seems to be almost like a preemptive caving on behalf of the hospital to the, I think, reasoned potential fear that some of their doctors could become targets of like lawsuits or something like that. Um, but yeah, and so the question was just kind of like they are abandoning their patients and leaving them out to dry for fear of potential legal repercussions, which I think is kind of why it's being framed as patient abandonment. Did you have any thoughts on that, Josie?
I 100% agree. I mean, I I just can't. I just don't understand why any doctor is like, well, I guess the law is going to say this at some point, so I'm just going to stop doing healthcare all of a sudden. Is just like it's malpractice, it's patient abandonment, it's criminal, in my opinion, because a doctor is not supposed to just like turn its back on patients. Like it's not supposed to be this way. And for doctors to be like, oh, it's too much of a legal headache, it's like, I know a lot of people talk about that South Park episode, but it's like the fact is like, I'm gonna sue you, and everybody's like, oh god, he's gonna sue us, like, and they're
Yeah,
still like playing this game. Like, it's like, come on, like who cares? Stand up for people,
I
damn it.
know.
Like, it makes me so mad.
And I really think, somebody in chat said capitalism is the issue. And I do really kind of feel like it comes down to that, because what we're looking at are like investors who are, I think, worried about at the end of the day, their bottom dollar. I think there is also an element to stave off. I know you guys are going to frame it this way anyway, because there's always just honest people in our chat and comments, but to stave this off, for the honest people, I'm sure there are some individuals there who are trying to do a triage situation and say, okay, we're getting revoked the ability to give trans healthcare. We can't shut down the whole clinic. So let's shut down this wing and continue to do our best to give care to the people who remain. And I do think that is a part of it. But I do think another part of it is that there are investors in organizations like these. And I think that at the end of the day, they're worried about their bottom dollar and saying, well, we don't want to get sued, like you're saying. We don't want to have that affect our income. And so rather than protect patients, we're going to throw them like dogs, or throw them to the dogs like the fucking Kurgan out of Highlander, like, the evil god creatures who throw the babies to the dogs or whatever. Like that's what it feels like. They're like, well, at the end of the day, this is affecting our capital, and we'd rather just let you suffer, let you die, than do anything to protect you. Yeah. I've been saying this election has radicalized me, y'all. It really has. Sorry, my views are not Josie's responsibility for any potential campaign people who are trying to find dirt. Unless Josie wants to adopt responsibility for my nonsense, but that's how I view this situation.
I mean, we are at a breaking point. So it really is. I mean, we need people who are talking real and not doing focus group tested bullshit nonsense consultant talk. I'm tired of it. Yeah. I'm tired of it. Like, it's not, nobody wants that. Everybody knows it's nonsense. And I think people are just effing exhausted by the fact that, oh, you're talking to me like this because you think that I'm some machine that's just like, oh, good words go this way, so therefore I vote yes. It's like, this is why we lose. Like, it's like we try to think that with this focus group tested conversation is like going to change people's mind in the real world. It's no. People literally have said, "Oh, I like Donald Trump because he talks like us." It's like because he's just saying bullshit, but still he's like talking at a level that people can understand. We're not talking a beep boop blop blop healthcare, bleep beep boop boop bop bop price costs. Like that's way that Democrats talk to people, and yeah. We sound like robots because we're letting robots determine what we should say. Like, it's so clear. And so we just need to be real and talk to people the way that they want to be talked to, which is like human beings that actually have agency in the way that they think. We're not all like, oh, vote blue machines. Oh my God, vote blue machines. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. And people are starting to wake up to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, it's just so frustrating when you look at polling, like independents and people on the left, generally speaking, including like liberals and Democrats, like overwhelmingly support things like universal health care, right? Like, just like massively overarchingly. But the Democrats won't pick that up as an issue, generally, like, for their party. And I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense unless you are bought out by corporate interests, which is exactly the entire fucking problem, and why Bernie went on his whole oligarchy tour. Like, it's just, it's selfish.
Only 17% of this country supports the war in Israel. Only 17%. Like that's it. And the fact that we have votes happen constantly that almost have it at like 80-something% every time is bullshit. It's absolute garbage. And we need to start talking honestly about what is happening. And we're just pretending like, oh, but the talking points, oh, but the money, oh, the AIPAC says this thing, so we have to say it now. And like, to say things like, oh, AIPAC should be part of the foreign lobbyist organization. They should have that regulation. Everybody's like, that's controversial. You can't say that. It's like, it's a group that is supporting another nation. It's a foreign lobbyist group. I don't care. Like, it's you're gonna I'm getting on my political high horse right now, and I'm about to go crazy.
No, it's good and it's needed, because honestly, while I do appreciate talking to callers and stuff, I do think that spending a lot of time talking to disagreeers is honestly a waste of time sometimes, and that I want us to be taking this time to be on our soapbox a little bit more often and to be reiterating what our vision is more often and to not be constantly responding to the garbage that people dump on our front porch and to be like, no, actually, I don't care where you dump that garbage because I'm not on my front porch. I'm out here doing the work, trying to fix things and make things better. And so, yeah, I'm interested in us being more proactive and less reactive in the coming years. And I think that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Because the reality is, like, I love our community so much, but sometimes this may be the only opportunity that some of our community gets to hear political points of view. Like, we understand that in the internet and the way that we consume media, there isn't a lot of time for people to watch everything. So it's our responsibility in a lot of ways to have to be able to share some of the news that is going through, because there might be not another opportunity for some of our viewers to see it. That's what the podcast bros are doing. Like we need to be able to speak to our community in a way that they want to hear this information, and we can't shy away from it, because nobody else is. The right isn't. They're jamming it down people's throat if they like it or not. And so we have a responsibility to do the same thing, to talk to our audience just like they talk to theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, if you guys didn't get a chance to participate in the chat poll, the poll will be up on our community tab and we'll review those results next week on next week's episode. So go ahead and click on our channel name and you can navigate your way to the post tab there to interact with that. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. We will be closing the line soon because we've got 4 callers on. I want to leave room for like at least maybe 1 or 2 more callers. But
if you voted no on that poll, call in.
Yeah, like definitely
do it. Do it. We'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yep. Okay, let's talk to actually we were talking about her before we got the show started. Let's talk to Aiden Swallow. Her in Arizona wants to talk about sort of this Pete Buttigieg scandal and fairness in women's sports. So Aiden, you're live with Arden and Josie. Yeah.
Oh.
What's going on?
Hello.
Hey, girl.
Hey, yeah, sorry. I actually, I didn't think you guys were going to take my call because you kind of already answered it. But yeah, I was wondering about, the Pete Buttigieg and all the Democrats kind of taking the side of, trans fairness issue. And now they've started to really focus on, younger than 17 kids because, oftentimes you don't get hormones till you're 17. So now I feel like they're taking that route now. And I just kind of wanted the opinion on that. On what you guys thought about the Democrats doing that.
So the new angle I've been coming at the sports conversation from lately, I've been kind of testing a new approach that I like personally, and that is spending a lot more time talking about, okay, I'm going to assume you do care about fairness in sports. Let's assume that everything they say about trans people is true. Trans people really do have an unfair advantage. We really are a risk to safety and fairness for women in sports. And these people really care about safety in women's sports. Proportionally, if all those things were true, trans people would still make up like less than 1% of the conversation. What are the actual issues affecting fairness in women's sports? Differences in funding, both for their institutions, for education, for how much the athletes, professional athletes, are paid, differences in research. Men account for the vast majority of the sports science research that exists. We can talk about the predatory doctors that we know exist, like Larry Nassar, who systematically assaulted women and girls for years. And rather than giving us any kind of structure with which to more effectively approach these predators within the athletics departments, instead, they want to now say that if there's doubt about your gender, you need to be sex tested, which functionally, in my eyes, enables people like Larry Nassar to continue doing the predatory stuff they're doing. So, like, even if we assume everything they say is true, the notion that this takes up any breath in the conversation is fucking ridiculous and a demonstration of dishonesty, as far as I can tell. But I don't know. That's kind of where my mind is. Go ahead, Josie.
Yeah, and just to do a little recap, so we have some people in the chat saying, "What did Pete do?" Well, Pete followed through and accepted the premise that trans women in sports is an issue and a matter of fairness, and that we need to really realize that this could be a potential problem, and the fact that some parents have an argument to be made, and it's a fair argument for them to be making, that their kids are playing against, trans women, and it should be the local authority, not politicians. I will give him the full context of the conversation. He's like, oh, it should be like school boards and organizations and things like that. So I will say he did say that, but the fact of the matter is he's accepted the premise that there is some type of unfair advantage of having a trans person compete in sports. So going back into that, and the reason I wanted to do that little bit of recap as well is for the fact that Pete, when we're having, and I'm gonna take Pete out of this, but when we're having a conversation, and and I think that Arden and I have a lot of experience in this, because we talk to people from all over the world that have different points of views, is just because somebody asks you a question doesn't mean you have to accept the premise of a question. So when somebody asks you directly, hey, do you think that trans women have an unfair advantage when it comes to sports? You don't have to basically say, well, yeah, there are some cases where there are some advantages because, all of the, testosterone and blah, 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 blah. You can just be like, look, we can talk about the fact that people have framed this argument as somehow it's boys and women's sports. We have to completely kill that narrative and say this is about trans women and girls. And when we are talking about trans girls, trans women, we can say that those are different than boys and men. We have to be able to talk about the definitions of the words that people use to be able to then address the conversation more effectively. So when Pete Buttigieg, I'm getting a weird echo. Is anybody else getting that? Just curious.
It could be me. Or let me turn my
I think it
volume down
might
a
be you.
little.
Yeah, I apologize if that's the case. It's distracting when I hear myself in an echo. So it's my nonsense. So basically, when we are taking a look at when we look at the arguments that Pete was trying to make, we have to start talking about what is the fairness, like Arden was talking about. The fact is, how is it an issue of fairness if there's never been a trans person in high school that's gotten a scholarship for sports and athletics? It's never happened. So what is the fairness here? If anything, it's unfair for trans people because trans people are unable to receive these type of scholarships to go into the NCAA. So what kind of fairness are we talking about here? The fact of the matter is the organizations or the Republican organizations that are trying to stop gender affirming care for people not being able to get puberty blockers, well, if you care about the fact that you want there to be more fairness, then give those trans kids the ability to develop as the gender that they are. So instead they are forcing these kids to be in this body they never wanted, and now they're saying, oh, there's a disadvantage, when there has been ways to prevent that from happening in any way possible anyway. So there is so much to unpack with the conversation that is happening. You have the fact that you have the media asking this question in a very pointed way, and we need to start not agreeing with the premise. We'd be like, yeah, we need to make sure that kids have rights to sports. I believe that it's unfair that trans kids can't play sports with their friends and don't have access to team sports, don't have the access to the exercise, don't have the access to socialization of being on teams. It is unfair that these young kids are being targeted in such a cruel way that makes them feel lesser than their peers. That's unfair, and it's not okay. We need to start talking about actually giving people equal access to all of these things, like Arden said. And look, you can be a politician about it too, Pete. You could say, hey, it's about making sure that people have access to play sports with their friends, but people really aren't talking about that. There are more pictures of Epstein with Trump than there are college kids in the NCAA that are trans. So why are we talking about this issue when people are worrying about paying for their cost of housing? When we have to worry about people not being able to get groceries? When we're worried about maybe people being flooded out and killed because of these massive climate events? That we are seeing a reversal of our EPA, where they're literally trying to reverse all climate protections across the country. That we're selling the national forest. That we stopped giving subsidies to companies that are doing solar panels and wind. Why are we focusing on this small minority of the population when most kids will not face a trans athlete in sports? They're more likely to get struck by lightning than being able to play against a kid in trans sports. So why are we talking about this issue? I'm tired of the political gamemanship of trying to ask this question that they divert from the real issues, and that is the fact that people are struggling. Be a politician about it. There you go, Pete. There's your answer. Take it like it's yours, right? Like, I don't understand why we have to accept the premise. Anyways, I can go on longer, but I'll let you go ahead, Aiden.
I mean, I don't know if I have much else to say. It was fantastic, no notes. But I guess the only other thing I would say, and we don't have to talk about it if you guys want to, but is I think that it just seems weird that the moment that they lost the presidential election, they blamed trans people, and now they're coming right back around to it as a convenient little distraction of their own. It just feels
Yeah.
weird that the both sides are using us as distractions.
100%. Yeah. This is why I've been saying, like, it's so frustrating to see politicians blow out their fucking constituencies like AOC and Mamdani, unabashedly pro-trans, and then for them to turn around and be like, oh, trans people are why we're losing. No, if trans people were why we were losing, trans people across every district would be dragging politicians down, but they're clearly not in every district. What are those politicians doing differently in those districts? Well, they're leaning more into further left politics. They're leaning more left into socialism. They're leaning further left into the issue of Palestine, of being anti-Zionist, of being, anti-forced starvation on fucking children. Like, there's so many things that are so much more important to the world today. And the things that you are going to do that are going to help all of the American people are also going to make the lives of trans people better, are going to make trans people want to vote for you. So it doesn't make any sense that we're spending any of this time is talking about trans people proportionally. Like, if you actually care about children's consent in medicine, the quality of evidence, fairness in sport, the risks of sexual assault to women and girls, if you care about any of these issues and you're blaming trans people for a single one, you don't actually know anything about these fucking issues. You are swallowing propaganda wholesale.
Yeah, and that wasn't a pun on your name, Aiden. And I will say I will say that you are. I had the privilege of speaking to you today because you are actually running for an office in Arizona in a rural area, and you are the type of person in running in those rural areas that give trans people hope. Right now, we are in desperate need of hope, and showing that you can mount a serious challenge and actually have a really good chance of winning. I just looked at the numbers, folks. It's a real thing. It's about very, very possible. And so we are slowly gaining ground in places they never expected. So I just wanted to say that, because I would be amiss if I didn't mention that you are also putting yourself on the line as you run for election yourself. So just thank you for that, because we're going to need more people to say the right things. And guess what? We can't even count on people like Pete Buttigieg, who's a queer leader, to speak about our community in ways that actually matter. So yeah, so thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Arden, and thank you, Josie. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you guys got spicy calls to get to, but I appreciate the plug, and I appreciate the passion in all the comments. And I think we've kind of talked about it, unless you guys want to talk more. But I think we're good.
We'd be happy to hear from you again, Aiden. Thanks for calling back in.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Bye. Yeah, that topic is so frustrating. I mean, like, I didn't even talk about what my high horse has been on that topic for the last year has been about blanket bans. Like, blanket bans aren't, and I still wholeheartedly believe that blanket bans are not a solution to a problem potentially faced by individual athletes. But it's just like, what do trans people have to do to demonstrate we don't have an advantage? Because we lose the majority of the sports that we participate in. And that's not enough. We win a handful of times, and those times get reproduced all over the news, reframed all over the news as shattering records and dominating sports, when in reality, we're losing most of the time. Like, let's be honest, every queer person you've ever met was a fucking weird theater kid who liked anime. Like, these aren't the people who are dominating sports. It's such a fucking scapegoat and a lie. And the trans people who are good at sports deserve to win. Trans people should be allowed to win a fucking medal. Like, it's so stupid. Like, I wish my problems were that my second grader didn't get the gold medal because a trans person got it and instead she got silver. That is such a fucking first world problem. People are starving. People are dying. People can't afford homes. People can't afford their groceries. I'm sorry. There are more important issues than your prejudice, hypothetical fear, or blaming all trans people for the hypothetical assailants in your mind.
It is, and it's usually narcissistic parents that want to see their kids win. Like, let's be honest. Like, they just they're like, oh, my kid didn't win the sport, so I need to remove all barriers possible. It's like, well, why don't you just take all the kids out of the sports and let your kid be the only one playing the game? Because that's essentially what you want. It's like, oh, that kid's way too fast, and maybe they should move from the town so they're not competing against my kid, right? Like, it's like it's so gross because most of the kids just want to play sports with their friends. That's what it is, and to make it anything more than that is just bad scapegoating and really just trying to get away from the real issues. And it is really, really frustrating. We should never accept the premise that trans people are the problem. And if you are getting asked those questions, just say people deserve rights, and then just move on to real issues that people care about. Like, honestly, that's what we need to do.
It really reminds me of, listen, I'm sorry to gas up Zoran, but he needs all the support everyone can give him right now because the whole establishment is against him, and I think he's fucking amazing. During his mayoral debate before the primary election, they asked every candidate on the stage, they were like, hey, if you win, what's the first place you'll go to? Every single politician had a location. Most of them said Israel or Ukraine or something. Zoran was the only one who said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I'm winning the mayorship to be here to fight with New Yorkers. I will be in the 5 boroughs, wherever New Yorkers need me, fighting for them. And they said, oh, really? Would you go to Israel? Do you think Israel as a Jewish state has the right to exist? Like, do you support ethno-states? They pressed him in a way they didn't press a single other candidate, right? It's so ridiculous because he's talking about the things that actually matter. And similarly, this feels the same. You can talk about the things that actually matter, and they want you to be like, and this isn't to say that trans rights don't matter. Don't get that twisted at all, because I see people kind of take that angle when we say things like that. It's just so frustrating to be talking about the things that actually affect all people, trans people, queer people, people of color, poor people, like issues that are going to help all of us, and to have them be like, oh, well, do you want boys to punch women in the face in sports? And it's like you said, Josie, why are we dignifying the premise of this fucking question?
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell I'm mad. I'm so big mad today.
I think we're all mad. It's fine. We're all in good company. I see you, chat. It's fine.
Okay, I'm not going to take you guys in order because there are some that are more spicy than others. We have some return callers who called a lot, and I want to give everyone a chance to speak. So I'm going to talk to, I think, Kayla first. She seems like there's maybe the most disagreement there, even if it's not a lot. So Kayla, pronoun she, her, from New Jersey, has questions about the difference between sex and gender-based rights. So Kayla, you are live on the line with Arden and Josie.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I was just calling in to ask, I mean, maybe this is going off of what you were just talking about or with the last caller. But in my mind, one of the reasons why these issues keep coming up, besides maybe some obvious bigotry among some people, is that there actually is a conflict in rights between sex-based and gender-based rights that is not going away, no matter how much we might want it to. And it seems like, yeah, that just isn't going away, no matter how much we want it to. And it just doesn't seem like anybody has a great answer to what people are supposed to do. It seems like it does come down to sort of a choice. And it does seem like next year, the Supreme Court is going to take up cases about Title IX and very easily define sex-based rights. And they've also hinted from these last decisions that they don't feel like there's a good definition of what it means to be transgender in their eyes. And so, yeah, I'm just wondering what you all think of that. Like, and does there need to be would it be helpful for there to be a better, quote unquote, definition legally, not academically or in our people's hearts and minds, but legally about what it means to be transgender, to secure those rights for people?
Well, I guess I have a clarifying question because because you said that there is a difference between sex-based and gender-based rights, and there's a conflict. Can you give me an example of such conflict?
I mean, I think any of them are obvious. If that is talking about sports, I mean, or talking about bathrooms, they were sex segregated to begin with, or for a reason.
Why?
And we can disagree with that or change that, right? But they were sex segregated legally for a reason, and it seems like the
I
Supreme Court is
disagree
only
with
going to
that
reinforce
statement.
that.
What was the reason, Kayla? Can I hold on?
Well, I'll just say, but
Sure,
also the reason
sure.
they were sex segregated, right? I don't think that
why?
when any of those
You said
laws
there was
were
a
written
reason.
down,
You said there was a reason
because
why.
there's at least a very strong general belief that there are differences between the sexes.
Well, I guess I'm trying, and I'm not trying to be pandactic here. I'm really not. I'm legitimately asking the questions of that's part of it. Is like we make these generalized statements such as like, oh well, obviously, but I want to know what the obviousness is, because like before there used to be like an outhouse, right? Before there were like plumbing, there would be like, okay, go to the outhouse, and there's where you go to the bathroom, and like things like that. Like I just don't understand what is the thing that made it so.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't. Maybe I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it is the reality that it's written down in a certain way, and I think that the Supreme Court next year is going to interpret it in a very specific way, and that seems to not be good for trans people and their rights to live how they want. And so, does that call for like a better definition of what it, or a more useful in that sense definition of what it means to be trans, to obtain that recognition?
I kind of want to, so going back to the question of the segregation of like sex-based bathrooms and sports, and there's like a lot of historical context that also contradicts like the reasoning. So for example, in sports before, it was all just everybody goes into sports and that's how it used to be, or women weren't even allowed to participate in sports. And then once they started letting women participate in sports, some of the women started beating some of the men, and they were like, oh god, we can't change the perception that women are as equal as men are, because a lot of this comes from the definitional concept of oppositional sexism, right? Oppositional sexism needs to exist for there to be like, okay, men are stronger than women, so therefore we are going to make that so by segregating the sports, so that way it always appears that men are stronger than women, even though if you were to actually combine certain things, there would be a lot of overlap in a lot of time, especially in like amateur leagues. There's why there's like co-ed soccer and things like that, where like, you know, there's a lot of times where you're able to just like all compete, and that's usually how that works. So there are historical contexts that allows us to say, oh, they segregated it because of that, when it didn't even really make sense. Why did they segregate chess? Well, because men didn't want to lose to women in chess. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, like, you know, that's a lot of how some of that stuff is structured, and there's no definition to it. It's just like there's a women's league and there's a men's league. And also with bathrooms, segregation of bathrooms also was very similar, the way of like black bathrooms, white bathrooms. Why? Because black people are inherently violent. That was what they said. So therefore, it was just like this assumed thing that exists, that black people can't go to the bathroom with white people because of that reason, which is completely a lie. There's no biological basis to it. There's no sociological basis to it. And that's what they did. And they do the same thing with the women's segregation of bathrooms and men bathrooms, because women are frail and helpless. And if one strong man decides to take a woman, then it's nothing she can do. So we're going to create these boundaries because women can't defend themselves, because the best thing we can do is just separate them. And so definitionally, we don't already have a reason why they segregate bathrooms. There's no law on the books that say we segregate bathrooms and social spaces because of these laws. Those don't exist. So now if we wanted to
then what is Title IX? But then what is Title IX? Doesn't Title IX guarantee in educational settings that people have the right to sex segregated spaces?
No, actually, it doesn't. Title IX just basically means that we as women should have, if there's a male rowing team, then there has to be at least an equivalent woman rowing team, or the women have to be able to participate with the boys in that rowing team, because that's what essentially happens.
But Title IX is not just about sports. It's not just about sports. It's about sex segregation in education.
No, it's not about sex segregation. It's about making sure women have the same opportunities as men. That's what it's about. It's about making sure, and it goes the other way too. So if there's like a women's home ec class and they're not letting men in, that's also a Title IX violation.
Okay, so then what do you think, if someone brings a claim that they're being sexually harassed at school, doesn't that fall under Title IX?
No, because that's a crime. If you're being sexually harassed, you're being sexually harassed. That's a crime, right? That's not a civil matter. That's a criminal.
So then what's a Title IX violation? I'm just saying, I mean, I don't really think all of this that, but I do just, my actual question is, do you think it would be helpful to have a more specific definition of what it means to be transgender in a legal context?
I think it could hypothetically under this Supreme Court, but I mean, the problem is that fundamentally, I think the Supreme Court is corrupt, and I would rather spend time working on, packing the court, expanding the court, and spending time trying to come up with definitions that are going to catch them, because these people are, sworn fealty to the Tangerine Palpatine. They're going to vote in whatever way he wants them to, no matter what kind of legal gymnastics we want to put ourselves through. So I'm not sure that that's really where our effort is best spent. But
And also, when we talk about like the definition of trans, like we already kind of do, right? It's somebody whose biological gender doesn't match their gender identity. It's very clear. It's just, that's what it is. And so if someone identifies as a woman and is, in that space, then they deserve equal rights as another woman would, based on gender characteristics. Do we have gendered bathrooms and gender segregated sports? Yes, we do. But that does not preclude the ability of a trans woman going into those spaces. And that's where I think the rub is, right? Now,
but we don't, that's the thing, but we don't have gender segregated sports. We have sex segregated sports.
We do. They're gendered.
And we might want to change that. We might want to change that to gender segregated sports.
I think Kayla, this is no, stop. Please stop. No, okay, stop for a second. Because This is a frustration of mine. I understand that we often put male and female on things, right? But the problem is if it's going to be sex segregated, people are going to determine the segregation, which group you belong into on the basis of your sex, except for all of history until the last 5 years. That has never been a consideration. They looked at you, made an assumption of you based on your gender expression, and sorted you. Trans women have been using women's restrooms for as long as trans women have existed. For the last 100 years, trans women have been using women's restrooms with no issue because these are gender segregated things. These are enforced by gender, even if they are sex in name, because for a lot of history, we haven't actually contended with the differences between gender and sex. I appreciate what you're saying. Yes, it does say male and female on a lot of those forms and a lot of the paperwork, but in practice, they're never actually enforced that way.
But I guess I'm just saying, if we want to change that, if the goal is to change it, I think just the reality is that things are sex segregated, and we might want to change that to things being gender segregated. But doesn't that take some effort to change that idea?
Which is why we
instead
have
of just saying that things are gender segregated, because I just don't think that I don't think most people believe that.
Kayla, so first
It would be
off,
wrong.
in most legal language says sex and gender. They say sex and gender in a lot of cases. So you're not allowed to discriminate against people based on sex and gender. We have been writing this into the law. That's why there have been executive orders trying to reverse that. That is why the Republicans have trying to specifically say sex means biological sex, because they know that the law already provides the rights and dignity to trans people. So therefore, they are trying to rewrite history. In fact, it has been in the right side of history where trans people have equal access to these spaces by the ways the laws have been written. In fact, we are not seeing trans people getting rights. We are seeing trans people getting their rights removed. That is the biggest indicator of everything that's happening right now. We've had trans people in sports since forever, like the 70s and 80s in certain states. They already have that written into the law that trans people had the equal access to all of these spaces already. We've had equal rights amendments in Minnesota, for example. Or Michigan, sorry. And so what we're seeing right now is the systematic removal of rights that trans people have already had, and that is what is happening. The way that the laws are currently written is how we have been able to withhold the same rights that we've always had. So before of the Tangerine Palpatine came into play, which I love that Arden said that, is essentially that when we were let's go roll the clock back all the way to 2016, when North Carolina tried to pass an amendment saying that we were going to sex segregate, like you're saying, biologically sex segregate bathrooms. They immediately got completely slapped down. They lost billions of dollars. Everybody was like, screw North Carolina for doing that, because they wanted to remove the rights of trans people that already were there. So I think so what the question that you're having is, you're trying to solve a problem that the Republicans are creating on their own. The laws that we already had were being interpreted correctly. That's why we were able to win the Bostock case, when we were able to say and use the current laws in place to say you can't discriminate against a trans person because they present a certain way at work, right? We've won cases.
That was based on the person's sex, on Amy Stevens' sex, when they wrote that decision.
Okay,
so I don't think
I feel like that's
a great example for there.
I feel like that's a dishonest framing, though. I feel like that's a dishonest framing, though, Kayla, because the whole point was that they're discriminating them based on their sex, because they're assuming that somebody assigned male can't live and present as a woman and functionally be a woman in society. That was the basis on which they defended it on sex. So it wasn't really on sex. They were saying that people who are of a different gender, their sex is more complicated in terms of legal rights in these situations.
Yeah. So, but do you get the point that I'm trying to make?
I don't think they wrote that in the decision.
That was the whole point.
The decision was that a trans person, the fact of the case was that a trans person was fired from a funeral home as an employee because she presented as a trans person. And the Supreme Court literally said, you can't fire somebody because they present as a trans person in society. Like, that's literally a case that supported and defended the people's right to be able to be employed as a trans person. And so I just want to talk about the original premise of what well, not my premise, but my question to you directly, which was, do you understand that Republicans are taking the rights away from trans people that we already have?
I think that's one way of looking at it, but I don't think that that's a helpful way to look at it.
Kayla,
Why?
if your point is that should we have in law specific protections for transgender people, fucking duh. Obviously, nobody's opposed to that. The problem is that that's difficult to do, and the systems we've had been working until Republicans came along and tried to enforce this biological essentialist understanding of sex, which I think your framing here capitulates to. That is the point that we're trying to get down to. Obviously, nobody's sitting here saying, I don't want specific protections for transgender people in law. Obviously, that would be great. But like, the systems, that's difficult to do, and the system we had already worked, except they're now trying to reestablish what sex means to enforce a different concept onto to discriminate against trans people. Like, I don't know. It seems like you really want to hold on to this idea of sex protections in the biological essentialist way when it's like a new creation.
Hold on to it, but it just seems like that is what is about to happen in a year.
Sure, because the Supreme Court is bought out by the Republican Party. Yes, that is going to happen.
Like, then is it just wait a whole generation until they die and there happens to be a president who will appoint somebody different?
I don't want to do that, but that might be what we have to do. Trans people don't have power. Our own people who represented us are now throwing us under the bus. What do you want us to do?
Yeah, Kayla, this is the problem, right? The problem is that you're uncovering the awful, ugly truth of everything that we're talking about right now. The awful, ugly truth is that because the one side of power is redefining what sex means, it is now removing trans people's right to exist in public spaces in a lot of these cases. And because of that, now we have to worry about the fact that we're not going to have this change for generations. And that is really the case here. And I think that's where the frustration is like, we already had a decent interpretation of the current laws that allowed trans people to exist in public society. It's a very recent phenomenon that the Republicans have decided to scapegoat trans people and redefine us out of the law. It's their redefinitions that have redefined us out of the law. We have no ability or mechanism to redefine it the other way around because they have all the power. And because the Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment, we are going to be dealing with this for decades.
And do you think in any way that a more exclusive definition of what it means to be transgender would be helpful?
The ACLU tried, right? The ACLU just went and did the Skirmity case just recently, trying to narrowly define the fact that...
I mean a more specific definition than what they offer to the Supreme Court.
What do you mean? The definition that
they definition that they offer to the Supreme Court was what you said. Anybody whose gender identity differs from the gender that would be expected based on...
What's the problem with that definition, Kayla? Do you think it's... Stop. Because you are so eager and it's stressing me the fuck out. I need you to take a breath. Do you think that it's the fault of trans people's bad definition that the Supreme Court ruled this way, or the fact that they have been looking for reasons to rule this way on these issues for years? Like, we know these people were appointed and are bought by the GOP to rule on cases like this. This has been a many decades long plan of the GOP to seize control of the judiciary to get rulings like this. I don't understand what... you're saying, they didn't give a good enough definition. I don't think it has to do with what kind of definition we give or how good it is. The Supreme Court is fucked. The Supreme Court needs to be packed or needs to be...
I didn't say that they didn't give a good enough definition. What
is it then?
Well, you're saying we need to give a better one. So clearly you think it wasn't good enough.
what is the definition, Kayla? Tell me, because I really want to know what your thought is the best definition.
That's literally my question. I don't know. I am actually genuinely asking that question.
I will say this as an expert, as somebody who's been dealing with the equality movement for quite a bit, that the best definition that we have is the clear, descriptive definition of what a trans person is. It is somebody who is defined a sex at birth that now identifies as the other a gender that is not
aligned with the sex they were assigned at birth.
Yeah. Thank you. As not aligned with the sex assigned at birth. That's what it is. That's what I am. I'm a trans woman. Guess what? I was assigned male at birth and I identify as a woman. I am a trans person. What clarity could I add to give somebody a better definition? Do I have to use the word penis? Like, I don't know. Do I need to be like, I was born with a penis and now I have a vagina?
Yeah. Oh.
Or like,
no, like, I think in the definition that you almost gave, and again, I have absolutely no place to say what I think is a better or worse definition at all. Like, that is actually my true question here. Is you almost said the sex opposite of which they were assigned at birth. So that is a different definition. And yeah, sure. I'm curious, would that be a more helpful legal definition to say identify with the opposite gender?
No, it's not, because that would completely eliminate all the non-binary people.
And I don't even think it's not a good definition because of that reason. It's good because the Supreme Court doesn't care how good your definition is. The GOP does not care how good our definition is, how good the science is on gender affirming care, how generous trans people might be in the society. They don't give a fuck. Having a good definition isn't going to save us. And if you're not... You're saying we need potentially a better definition to help protect us from the Supreme Court, but then you're saying
that you need. I don't say that you need anything that you should listen to me talk about. I'm calling the show to.
Yes, but you're criticizing what has been presented. Yes or no?
I'm not criticizing. It just is what it is. They lost the case, and the opinion said that they didn't think that was.
Kayla, you're not answering questions directly, and I'm so done talking to you. Josie, you can continue if you want. I have no interest in engaging with Kayla any further.
I will just finish this, Kayla. The reason that I think we're getting so aggravated is the fact is we're trying to pretend that we live in a rational society right now. And the fact of the matter is, if we lived in a perfect legal society where everything was by the book and we used the definitions the way that they were supposed to be, the definition that we've expressed to you already would have stood up in court like it has already in many other cases. The problem is we don't live in a rational legal society anymore. The Supreme Court has been captured by a conservative sociological view of the interpretation of the law. So therefore, we have no ability to give them the definition that they want. The definition that they want is a man is an adult human man. A woman is an adult human female. That's what they want. And if we don't give them that, they're not going to be happy with whatever we have to say. And I think that's why we're getting frustrated, because we're ignoring the fact that we do not live in a rational legal environment right now. Do you agree that we're not living in a rational legal environment right now?
Sure, we're not. But let me just say this. Like, look, I'm an immigrant to this country, right? And there's also a bunch of stuff going on with the persecution of immigrants. And I just don't think it's a bad thing as myself, an immigrant. That's something that I can relate to. If people want to talk about, okay, how can we better message, or how can we better, what are changes in our strategy to get what we want right now, or in 10 generations from now, or this Supreme Court or the next. I just don't think that's inherently a terrible thing to ask questions. From my perspective,
sure. Nobody said that. Nobody said that was a terrible thing. This is the dishonesty. Nobody said that. Nobody said that was a terrible thing.
And we're gonna move on here in a second. But I just want to say this. In a perfect society where we have the ability to use our words to be able to get the things that we want, I work in messaging as well. Like I am a trans leader nationally. I have conversations like this all the time. I've sat in rooms with 5 other national trans organizations talking about how do we make sure that we do better by our community, because the better we say it, the better we save a couple lives, then yes, we would do that. But we
And actually,
as a
sorry, I didn't
community
actually mean messaging. I just meant accepting that like immigrants have taken huge L's, huge losses, and then what do we do now? Yes, we accept that the Supreme Court is horrible. Yes, we accept everything about the irrationality of the legal system we live in today, but people still exist today as immigrants and need stuff. So now what do we do? That's like really maybe the best allegory to the question I was trying to ask regarding trans people is not, immigrants failed at messaging or they weren't good enough or they didn't have a good thing. But the reality is that they've taken huge L's, and how do we recover from that? That was really
that did not come across in your question at all. Not even remotely close. Like if we're talking about ballparks, you were like swimming with the dolphins in South Florida while the ballpark was in Boston. That's how far off I feel like that framing is from how you actually came into this conversation.
Yeah. Because the answer to your question is quite simple. We just need to elect them out of office and elect people who actually want to follow the law and actually do the right thing for people in our society. And that is the simplest way that I can answer it. Like, that's the answer to your question. We need to get these assholes out of office and do better. Like, that's what we got to do. So that's my answer. But Kayla, I really appreciate your call. And I hope that this was somewhat valuable to your day.
Your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't worry, it wasn't valuable to mine either, Kayla. I'm sorry. I feel like I got gaslit throughout that whole conversation. She comes in saying, well, sex-based rights are one thing, and the Supreme Court is expected to rule that way because of this definition that was presented that was shot down. Like, should we have a better definition? And I'm like, what point is there in a better definition? She's like, I didn't say the definition was bad. You're saying we need a better definition, which clearly implies there's something wrong with the current one. And maybe there is. I don't fucking know. If some genius political analyst comes up with the right way to frame things that's going to make everything great, awesome. But that's a fantasy world. You can't... With these people, they have shown us time and time again, there's no amount of framing yourself the right way that is going to get you the coverage you want. They have decided how they want to frame trans people. They have decided how they want to frame immigrants. They have decided all of this in advance, and they are going to find a way to contort their rulings to fit the ending that they've already come up with. Like, I'm sorry. Again, nobody's opposed to coming up with a better definition. Nobody's opposed to enshrining immigrant and trans rights in law. Literally, no one came in the fucking ballpark of saying that here. All we're saying is that you're wanting us to like contort or change to anticipate the bad things that are coming up. That is not the move. We need to, Josie said vote them out, but I mean, even that feels like an unrealistic strategy on some level because we've tried voting and they're gerrymandering now states like Texas and others to make voting them out even fucking harder. Like, we need somebody who's going to show up and is going to be a fighter for the people and who's going to say, no, we're going to fucking pack the courts. You guys want to buy out half the courts? Cool. We're adding 9 new justices and they're all hard left. Who fucking cares? We're not playing by the same rules anymore. Like, I'm sorry, but the entire notion of that was just very aggravating. And again, just because people called it male and female for all of history doesn't mean that's how it's enforced. Trans women, it's always been socially enforced, these spaces. Trans women have gone into and come out of spaces for decades past. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a trans elder who was living fucking stealth throughout the 80s and had attended women's groups and had attended, used the women's bathroom their whole life and never encountered a problem because even though it says sex-based, it's enforced socially by gender. Like, they're trying to contort it to be this new understanding of biological sex, which is gender essentialist. Like,
and that's the big part is like we are playing defense this whole time. People think that trans rights are so important. They want more rights. It's like, no, we're just trying to maintain the rights we've always had. Mm-hmm. Like, we fought really hard to have equality in this country, and the rights and the laws and the way that they're written with gender and sex being there is been protecting trans people this entire time. The fact that people think that trans people are asking for laws that give them rights is not actually what's happening. We are trying to defend the hard-fought gains that we have been already able to achieve since the 80s. And now it's like, oh my gosh, trans people want so much. It's like, no, you're the one taking us out of sports. You're the ones taking us out of bathrooms. You're the one saying that we can't have our health care that doctors have been prescribing us for decades. You're the one that's trying to make sure that we can't exist in public space. That is you. That is not us. We are just trying to play defense. You're the ones that are trying to pull our rights out of our hands that we have already received. Just because we're trying to codify these laws to make sure that we enshrine them forever doesn't mean we're getting more rights than we already had. Like that, it's like we're not asking for more rights. We're just asking for the rights that everybody else has. It's like, and now we have to say it that way because we are losing rights now. And now we have to fight for those rights to come back. And now they're trying to frame us as the bad people because how dare us try to get the rights that we lost because somebody else took them from us. It's like they manufactured this problem. They're the ones that made us have to fight for our rights to exist. We were existing just fine until these assholes decided to take it away from us.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that we're not like here thinking of ways to address this problem and how to move forward in society. Like the fact that I'm taking issue with her bullshit framing is not me in any way saying, oh, everything we've done is right. Let's keep on the same tactics because like she said we're getting L's. I agree with that. Clearly fucking trans people and immigrants are taking L after L right now, right? We've had so many discussions about strategy and how to move forward. But she was like insisting on this framing and like gaslighting about things she was saying. Fucking, I can't stand a person like that. Like you're not adding anything productive to the conversation.
Yeah, they're taking away birthright citizenship, something that's been enshrined in the Constitution forever. And they're like, oh yeah, immigrants they can't have this anymore. It's like, oh, now it's the immigrants' fault because we should have defined it better. What?
Yeah,
like,
no, exactly.
I'm sorry.
And I'm sure she would be like, I never said that they should have defined it better. Like, okay, well, when you said the definition is the problem, that is you saying we need to define it better. Like, I'm talking about the logical consequences, like the logical conclusion of the things you're saying.
We're losing because of attorneys. Their bad arguments made us lose all our rights. That's what it is. These damn attorneys made us lose everything. That's what it is. Let's just put it all on the attorneys and their bad arguments. All right, that's what it is.
3 callers left. We're going to get to Super Chats after this. Super Chats of $5 or more we'll read out live. If you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Josie in your Super Chat, you will give us a point to one of us. Whoever has the least amount of points has to defend some embarrassing position that we probably wouldn't hold in reality. Let's do 16-6, 4-3, and then 6-4 last. Okay. For those of you guys should be able to hear me on the line right now, we're going to talk to Aspen first, Andre, and then Mila last. So if that is a problem for you guys and any of you want to drop, that's fine. But until then, we're going to talk to Aspen, pronouns he, they, and Florida. Wants to know what experience is needed to classify yourself as trans. Is there some necessary level of transness? So Aspen, you're live with Arden and Josie. What's going on?
Nothing's going on. It's just living life, you know?
Yeah, in Florida.
I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, talk to us. What's in your mind?
A lot of things, actually. The past couple of years have been a little weird. I've kind of taken a little bit of a selfish approach with this because I'm asking directly for advice from you guys. Obviously, I listed my pronouns as he, they. I've considered myself a cisgender guy long before I even knew what transgender people were. But I've always been supportive of people and how they identify. I've never questioned how people identify themselves. I've never been like, oh, but you have to prove it to me, you know, blah, blah. If you're a woman, then you're just a woman. If you're a man, you're non-binary, it's whatever. But I've started exploring my own gender identity. It started a little bit when I was watching some clips from, I don't know if you guys know him, but Jovan. He also does like a call-in show kind of on his own YouTube channel. And
I was on it this morning.
Yeah. the way that he defines specifically man and women as gender terms is someone who aligns themselves with their internal schema of the yeah. I can see you. I can see you kind of smiling about that. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I don't necessarily align myself with how I view men. I also don't necessarily align myself with how I view women. And
hmm
I kind of was talking about it with my friends, maybe exploring some kind of non-binary, identity would be good for me. But then I was thinking, but all of my trans friends have gone through so much. They talk to me about their experiences as being trans, about how difficult it is for them growing up as the gender they were supposed to be, quote unquote, by society. And I've never had to experience that. I still felt at least somewhat comfortable in my own, identity when I would call myself a man, but I also don't 100% align with that anymore. And I feel like it's lying to myself, calling myself a full man. The label
So
I've been using is non-binary mask, but I still am just like, what is there like a qualifier there? Because people don't have to prove to me that they're trans, but now I have to like prove to myself that I qualify for the trans label.
So I think it's an important thing to note about Jovan's definition that you're referencing there is he's talking about your personal schema of the female sex or the male sex, right? So that's not to say
Hmm.
that there is like society obviously has a schema that we're working with and we're referencing men, women, the kind of roles, broadly society. But I also think it's fair to acknowledge that in individual households, right? There's differences. Like sometimes in households, men do all the cooking and the fathers do all of, X or Y, or women do more of this other typically masculine task. So when we're
Hmm.
talking about this, the schema definition that Jovan uses, and maybe it's my understanding, maybe it's wrong. I would love for him to correct me, but my understanding is that has to do with your schema of the male sex. So you may well be non-binary. All that's to say that a highly feminine gay man who does drag, like, and still identifies as a man, clearly his schema of the male sex is very, very different from what society's schema of the male sex is. And that's still okay. He's still a man under that definition.
Yeah.
So I think that if that's a helpful way to interpret it, like there's no level of gender performance that you have to reach to be a man or a woman. But if you are feeling like neither of those really fully captures how you understand yourself and that non-binary is an easier way to describe your identity, I also think that's totally cool and valid. And whatever, you feel like applies to those concepts the best, I think that's really what matters. We're talking about a internal, personal sense of self in relation to these big systems that have been, reinforced socially over many, many, many generations. So, yeah, I think it's a very highly personal thing. And I think there's no amount of qualifying, classifying criteria that you could give that wouldn't fall apart when looking at a different individual.
Right. Hmm. Like all of
Yeah,
that.
and go ahead,
Thank you.
please. I
Oh
would
no,
like your
go ahead. Go
response.
ahead,
Go
Josie.
ahead.
Go ahead, Josie.
No, yeah. I mean, Arden said a lot. I would like you to respond, and then I can throw in my piece.
Okay. I really like everything that you said, Arden. And me personally, I'm also kind of trying to tell myself this. Obviously, not to the full extent that you've explained it. But the main hang up that I am having that's fully preventing me from actually embracing the non-binary label is I don't know, I've never had any real negative like experiences. I see all of these, not all of these, kind of a weird way to phrase it, but like transgender people that I talk to, they all talk about the gender incongruences they've had when they're younger, all of the like, gender dysphoria. I've never really had that. So yeah, I'm like trying to prove to myself now at this point, which is very
Yeah.
contradictory with my stance long before where it's like, oh, you'd never have to prove yourself to me. I'm just going to accept you as you. And I'm really having a hard time. I'm really having a hard time.
Aspen, let me ask you this question. Are you cis? I'm gonna let you know, cis people don't hesitate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
No, yeah, sure. Still cis though, right? Yeah, whatever. Aspen, look. See, that reaction exactly is the transness poking through in a lot of ways, or the non-binariness poking through in a lot of ways, okay? Like, nobody has the right to tell you what you are and aren't. It is up to you to be able to say to yourself, this is what it is. And the fact is, cis people don't go around asking these questions that you're asking all the time. The fact that it's always in your mind and the fact that you're contemplating this all the time is a clear indication that you're probably not cis. You're probably something else, right? And that's really what it is. Like, you know, like if you think a cis person, when they think about, am I a guy? Am I a girl? No, yeah, I'm definitely this. I'm cis for sure. That's the extent of what they think about when they think about being cis or not. So in reality, that is it may not be that ping, that sensation that you had, that chill or whatever you had, that hot tingle that you heard when I asked you that question, and that hesitation may not be a traumatic experience like somebody like myself or Arden or whoever suffers different types of gender dysphoria at different levels, does not disqualify you to know that that is still something that is there. The fact that that hesitation is a form of gender dysphoria, because if somebody were to say, you're a cis, you're a guy, no matter what you say, Aspen, and you'd be like, whoa, I don't know if I agree with that. That is the gender dysphoria speaking in a little bit of a way, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's different levels, right? Am I hitting a nerve there? Is that right?
A little bit. I'm not. I was
Okay.
watching the chat a little bit. People are confused if I'm crying or laughing. I was laughing, but also I won't be like. It's a lot. I know it's very cathartic for me to hear all of this, but it's also it's just a lot of deprogramming, I suppose, because I was still brought up with a very religious, house.
Absolutely.
I won't get into my personal qualms with religion. It's honestly, I'm not very comfortable about talking about that. But I grew up with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I moved out a couple weeks ago. And throughout these weeks, I've been fully able to actually explore things, especially with my awesome roommates. I love them to death. But they've been very validating using they them pronouns for me, and it's very new. I like it when they do that, but also, again, the main hang-up was I don't feel trans enough to label myself as trans, but
Go ahead, Arden.
I was just going to say, if I can offer Aspen, labels are really only useful for like two purposes, and that is helping us identify groups who are experiencing like particular forms of oppression, right? Like when we talk about trans people, we can talk about the ways in which trans people are oppressed specifically in separation and comparing and contrasting to other groups, and also to communicate a general idea to someone. Almost every label is going to be not completely perfect, and you're going to have to get down to specifics with it, right? So I would say, try not to feel like you have to come to a destination right away. Like, just be you, just live your life, try to feel comfortable, find what things make you feel like you're just able to just kind of exist without thinking about it too much. And if that lands you as a woman or a non-binary person or a cis man, like all of those are okay. And if you kind of move towards non-binary and then realize you're actually a cis man, that's also okay. You're not locking yourself in to a thing where you can never change. Like, you need to just listen to yourself and what you need. And also, oh baby, you're only 2 weeks out of Jehovah's Witnesses. Give yourself some time, girl. Oh my God, it's really soon. It takes a while to kind of work through these things. So definitely give yourself some grace, and consider calling Recovering from Religion. Also, they have got some great resources for people in your position. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Josie, you go ahead. That was my thing.
Yeah, and like enjoy the journey, enjoy the exploration. I also come from a very conservative background, raised Catholic, was Pentecostal, and rural Texas and the whole thing. And I had a lot of internalized transphobia. There were moments of like, oh, it's too late for me to be trans, and like I used to say things like that all the time back in when I was first, starting to come true to myself. And reality is, it's like explore it, internalize it, be who you are. Don't hold yourself up to other trans people and be like, oh, they're definitely trans, so I'm probably not because I'm not like them. It's human nature to kind of compare yourself to other people's experiences, but every trans person's experience is unique. Like, no, and there are really shitty trans people out there, like the Blair Whites of the world and stuff, who are like, you can only be trans if you do these things. And it's like, okay, girl,
Oh,
that you don't get bottom surgery, so why are you
I,
calling yourself trans? Like, like there's like
the,
all these different things that exist, right? So don't compare yourself to them. Like, don't let
mhm,
perfect be the enemy of the good.
mhm. I do kind of want to wrap this up because I do think the extent of the call has reached a point where nothing else needs to
Sure.
be said. But on the Blair White thing, I never looked up to Blair White. I didn't even know who she was until maybe like a year ago. But there was
Uh-huh.
this YouTuber that I used to watch in like middle school. I don't know if you guys know them, Kelvin Guerra. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
Oh
around
God.
anymore, but
Yeah.
he spouted a lot of trans medicalist stuff. And while I was still
Yeah.
never like, you have to prove yourself to be trans, a lot, I think I internalized a lot of that. Maybe it was maybe
Yeah.
that I only
Yeah.
realized when we brought up Blair White. So
It's
Yeah.
true. That's the toxicness that I like. Don't listen to that shit. That's crap. There is no qualification. Like,
Yeah.
there's no qualification. You're not cis, then that's good enough, right? Like, that's all it really is. Like.
Also, I don't know if you know this, Aspen, but we have two extra Jehovah's Witnesses hosts here on the line, Owen Morgan and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels, who host regularly. So, if you ever want to call in and kind of like work through those ideas with them, I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
okay, okay, yeah, I'll definitely keep them in mind whenever they're on. I appreciate you guys so much. The things that you're doing, especially in a world we live in right now, it's super important, and you guys deserve the world. I love you guys.
Thanks,
Aw, thank
Aspen.
you, Aspen.
Appreciate you. You have a good day, okay?
All right,
You too.
bye.
Best luck living out there in Florida. Chat was like, "Are you okay?" Because I looked pissed after that. Kayla, listen, I'm fine, but will I lie that I was pissed? I have to. I'm going over in my head. I have to rewatch the call because I genuinely feel so fucking gaslit that I'm like, what happened? Like, I've had gaslighters in my life multiple times over, so like that was super fucking triggering for me when I'm like, I'm responding to what you said, and then you said you didn't say it. That makes me want to scream like nothing else. Um, so sorry. Anyway. All right, we have two more callers left. We're going to talk to Andre and then Mila. So Andre, they them wants to talk about men-dominated workspaces and the importance of representation versus the risk and dangers of being in those workplaces. So Andre, you are live on the line with Arden and Josie. What's going on?
Hi there, you two. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah. So yeah, this is partly personal, but I'm trying to like frame this in a way that's like, I don't know, more useful for the broader conversation because that is something I'm concerned with myself. But yeah, but essentially, I think since I am in that men-dominated workspace and I am you know, I am queer, and not visibly yet. There's kind of a recent development, but definitely a possibility in the future. And it's just kind of a fear of mine. I think exposure is important for people's tolerance in all spaces, school and work and all that kind of stuff. But I also acknowledge that like it's dangerous for some people, especially in a environment where you might be the only trans or queer person there. So I just kind of wanted you guys' opinions on that conversation? Like, do if a company has an anti-discrimination policy, does that actually like help protect marginalized people? Like, should you, if you're brave enough, I guess, be visible, or is safety priority? I'm not really sure. What's your opinion there?
Oof, this is a tough question. So right now in the laws, they're still not allowed to discriminate you for your appearance and the way that you present and how you identify. We did have the Bostock decision that is real, that exists still in the law. And there are still plenty of attorneys out there that will sue and do all the things for wrongful termination, because if you were to say, hey, I'm queer, and then they get rid of you, you have a legal case. Now, I want to say a big caveat there. It still sucks to go through the legal system if you lost your job for being queer. Like, you have to get an attorney, then you have to worry about not losing your wages for a while, and there's all of those things that you were talking about, safety, and then the resources that you have to be able to fight an organization for wrongfully terminating you. So there is a lot of the personal conversations that you got to be able to have with yourself, and maybe even a labor attorney beforehand, just so you can make sure you have everything nice and wrapped up to make sure that they are doing it because of that, and making sure they're not going to try to gaslight you and say, hey, I didn't fire you because of that, I fired you because of the other thing. And there's a lot of protections that you have to try to set up for yourself. And then as far as the exposure thing, when you're talking about, okay, I'm coming out in a male dominated or whatever dominated space, it could be a female dominated space, or whatever. There is a reality there, that there will be people who will be like, whatever, that's cool, whatever, we're fine. And then there'll be people who will be like, oh, well, that's weird. And then there'll be people who maybe will slap your ass and treat you like a woman. Like I'm telling you, there are bad things everywhere. I know a woman personally who came out. She was an engineer, and she worked in a steam room with a lot of different, pipes and stuff. And then the second she came out for a woman, she got sexually harassed, and she actually had to sue the organization because they started assaulting her as a woman. And she was like, whoa, I went way the other direction. I was not expecting them to start doing that. And so there's like a lot of things that we have to think about as we come out in spaces like that. So the things that you're thinking about are incredibly normal, valid, and understanding, especially currently in this climate. And it's going to have to be a decision that you have to make. There's nothing that I think I can tell you or Arden can tell you to say, yep, you're all good, go ahead and go. It's just it's a value judgment that you're going to have to make. Because obviously we don't want you living on the streets, right? We don't want you to be losing everything and everything like that, but we also want you to live your true self. So there's a lot of really hard conversations that you got to have in these type of situations. And I know I probably didn't make any of your thoughts easier by taking both sides on that, but I would love to hear what either Arden or you have to say to that.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I was distracted, so I apologize if I'm reiterating, but this is just kind of close to, whether or not queer people should be leaving states that are hostile towards their rights. Like, there's a lot of benefit to staying, there's a lot of benefit to leaving, and that is really just a value judgment, like Josie said, that you have to make for yourself based on what you think you need and what you can handle. Yeah, I mean, I can't really elaborate anymore on that. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, everything you guys said is helpful. I do appreciate your answer, because it did kind of pose the same, concern to a particular support group, and an online one on Discord. And the individual that I replied was pretty. It was pretty dark. I mean, they're pretty much like, you're either gonna have to not come out, or you're just gonna have to quit your job and find a new career path. And I'm like, oh my god, yeah. I have come to realize it is gonna be like a personal judgment call there as it stands right now. Yeah, I need to financially support myself and my spouse, and I'm especially going to need resources and health insurance if I want to do anything down the road as far as my identity too. So, yeah, but yeah, again, on the other hand too, I do think that it is important for that exposure, and kind of what I thought or I kind of came to the conclusion that I'm gonna I don't know, test the waters, as it were, as far as presenting in that space. I mean, I don't do anything so majorly different to a cis man necessarily, besides maybe my mannerisms and maybe light makeup I'll wear occasionally. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna continue doing these subtle things and gauge
Yeah.
reactions from coworkers and my manager especially, because I think if I can get manager support, it'll be much easier. And hopefully, if there is somebody else, that is way more afraid than I am, hopefully I can be that, I don't know, that spark in their
That's true.
work life that they can, we can come together. But that's my
Yeah.
wishful thinking going in there, but I'm trying to stay grounded.
I think you're taking the right approach. It seems like you are taking, the small steps that you need to make sure that you still are employed. And I think that you know your situation best, because we don't know your workplace, we don't know your environment, we don't know what the culture is like. And I think that to trust your instincts is the best way to go in these type of situations. I wish we lived in a world where the people didn't have to make these type of choices, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I will say chat's been saying this, and I want to reiterate it if it hasn't been said, but that, if there are any concerns about issues that would go to HR or something, make a very detailed paper trail, because the only thing that's going to get you any actual resolution for discrimination in almost any workplace, even ones with a good union with strong rights, are you having a paper trail. So if you have concerns, definitely be prepared to have something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
definitely receive that. I kind of already know I'm gonna have to do essentially extra work compared to someone who doesn't have these concerns. But it's just part of, I don't know, the unfortunate reality we live in. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all I had. So thank you both for taking my call today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andre.
And
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
Alrighty. So I have our poll questions and here, let me tell you,
Ooh.
we might change one, but I think these are kind of funny.
Okay,
So,
go for it.
what position should the loser defend? ID glitter instead of gender markers. Maybe holographic pink, holographic blue, holographic green instead of gender markers, or something along those lines. Cis men can only speak after a meow. Or Arden is a liability to Josie's campaign. There are your topic options. So you guys can vote on that. Let us know what you want us to defend. Remember, the game is, if you guys send super chats and include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Josie, whoever has the least amount of points at the end has to spend 2 minutes defending one of those 3 positions, whichever you guys vote for. So let us know how you want to make us look foolish. And with that, we have one caller left. I do have to run to the bathroom, though, so I'm going to start you off on your own with her, and then I will pop back in. We're talking to Mila in Colorado, pronouns she, her, who has questions about if reproductive biology determines male or female, why talk about things like hand size, shoulder to hip ratio, etc. So, Mila, you are live on the line with Arden and Josie, except just Josie for a minute.
No worries.
Mila.
Hi, how's it going?
All right. Going well. So so tell me about it. So what do you mean by the biological determinations?
So I think basically my question is kind of regarding a lot of the the abuse, that gets weaponized, especially like body-oriented abuse towards transgender people, relative to the fact that I guess these like transphobic people or gender critical people tend to come at it from a perspective that the only thing that makes you a man or a woman isn't the extent to which you pass, isn't like your secondary sex characteristic, it's not your even like sex characteristics you're born with being less dimorphic. It is only like what Arden often describes as like the sex soul, or like what your reproductive biology, right? Like and I people who are basically coming from that mentality that like the only thing that matters is like what configuration your reproductive system was born in, don't tend to actually I think believe that, because when they go to attack trans women, right, like nobody's playing, no one's powerlifting with their fallopian tubes. It's not reproductive biology that seems to be their concern. It's other sex characteristics, the same sex characteristics that they deny makes someone a woman when they are aligned with like, standard female biology. So that's kind of what I wanted to explore is, is sex really, if sex is solely determined by your reproductive biology, then doesn't that mean you don't get to criticize a trans woman for the size of her hands or her Adam's apple, her shoulder to hip weight ratio, all these things that they seem to be obsessed with? Because, if they were, if there wasn't an Adam's apple, if a trans woman had a normal female shoulder to hip ratio, they would still say, well, that doesn't make you a woman. The size of your hands doesn't make you a woman. Your voice, your passability, none of that makes you a woman, solely because of your reproductive biology. So I guess in my head, I come at it from the perspective of like, if that's the hill that you want to die on, that like that's the only thing that determines, what pronouns you use, like, then you don't get to talk about my hands, you don't get to talk about my shoulders, you don't get to use these things to abuse me, abuse trans people. That's kind of like what I wanted to explore. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when and I'm just trying to get to a point, because it was like you're saying, is your question, and it's easier for me to pose this as like if it as an investigation or exploratory question, are you saying that essentially the arguments around biological essentialism, essentially around reproductive, is that a logical conversation with like the gender critical folks? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. That's definitely to an extent. It's also kind of like, I guess I wanted to explore the premise that, biological sex can be determined by more than just reproductive biology, and specifically the biological characteristics that are mutable, changeable, like flexible, not just the ones that are, have to do with your reproductive parts.
Usually what I do when I'm having, the conversations with, the gender critical folks, and when we start getting into biological essentialist arguments anyway, is the idea that we have to really determine if they even believe there's a difference between sex and gender at all, right? Because if they don't believe there's a difference between sex and gender, then it's impossible to have a conversation with a gender critical person, because the premise of sex and gender being the same is a premise that is unreasonable. So that's why a lot of times when you're having conversations with gender critical people and they say it comes down to your reproductive capability, and that determines your gender, because they believe it's the same thing, then essentially you can't have a conversation, right? It's not possible, because no matter if, like you said, no matter if they present as a stereotypical woman, they have all the characteristics, there's no way for them to know until they look at your biological chromosomes or your birth certificate when you were born. Like, that is essentially what they would have to relate to, which makes it a nonsensical argument. Like, it's like nobody's digging into the archives of like, oh, I like, because it's easy for a person to be able to say, oh yeah, I was born, you know, sex female at birth, and it's like, prove me wrong. Like, you know, prove me wrong. It's like, how are you going to prove somebody wrong if they have all of the things that you're talking about, right? So it's one of those situations when I'm having these conversations, I have to determine the fact that sex and gender are different. They sometimes correspond with each other and they sometimes don't. And so that's kind of how I start the investigational process when I'm talking to gender critical folks that try to use those arguments, because once you're able to separate gender and sex, then you're able to actually have a conversation about what that looks like in societal terms. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. I mean, like, I guess, you know, even if like, let's say they agree to disagree about the differences between sex and gender, right? Like, ultimately, whenever they see a more manly woman or a woman that has more manly characteristics, like, you know, when they go to weaponize dysphoria against them, right? They're not, I guess they're not really, from my perspective, they're not thinking about like an intellectual argument about like, okay, what's, you know, where is sex relevant? Where is gender relevant, right? They're thinking, you know, I'm mad at you. I don't like you. I want to hurt you. So I'm going to point out the things that you probably have dysphoria on, right? Like, I mean, obviously that's very cruel, but like it's effective, and at least in the sense of shutting down the conversation to begin with, because, you know, they can talk about your voice. They can talk about your hands. They can talk about things that, like, you know, even if they were aligned with those norms, would still not, they still wouldn't say that makes you a woman. So like, even if, you know, let's say a gender critical person is to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was like, that's just playground tactics, right? It's like for me, it's like, oh, you have a deep voice, so you're not a girl, or you know, and it's like, when I was a kid, people used to bully me all the time because I wasn't manly enough. Oh, no, are you some kind of girl? Oh, you're such a girl, like, and I'm like, and now that I say I'm a girl, every one of those people are like, you're not a girl, you're a man. I was like, really? I didn't think you thought I was for a long time. And you know, and it's like they don't care about the logic, they care about the cruelty. And that is, and that's essentially it. And so when we have the conversations around with biological essentialists, they are just trying to be like, oh, well, actually, if you look at your biology, I get to tell you what you are. And it's like, it's the ability to take control away from somebody's own agency to say who they are. And it is one of the highest levels of cruelty, in my opinion, where you get to dehumanize somebody and tell them what they are when they're clearly not. And it's a tale as old as time. Like, communities have been called rats. Marginalized communities have been called vermin. You know, subhuman, garbage. Like, and they use these terms to take away the agency from the humanity of what that person is. And that's what these bioessentialists, these TERFs, and all of these people who are just flat out cruel is like, oh, I want to hurt them by calling them a man because they're not a man. So I'm going to call them a man and it's going to hurt them. So therefore I get to have agency over their feelings. And that is essentially where a lot of that comes from. It's a very bullying, schoolyard bullying type of way of living. They have arrested development and they're not very nice humans. But maybe I'm being too glib in what you're trying to discuss here, though, Mila.
No, not at all. I would say you're pretty spot on. I mean, I mean, in that aspect, right? Like the glibness of it, if that's the word you use. I guess, like, so I've been on actually, like, kind of anonymously debating on TikTok a lot. Like, I've like actually gotten a few gender critical people to, like, you know, sorry, excuse me. I've had some, like, I guess, success with my, like, attempts to kind of point out the contradictions. And I guess that's really more so what I'm, like, trying to highlight is the contradiction in, like, you know, this definition of a sex soul that, like, defines sex not as even, like, the present state of a person's biology. And obviously, like, you know, I'm not trying to discount the argument that like sex and gender is different, right? But like, if we are arguing with people who, you know, they want to kind of say that those things are mutually exclusive, they're the same thing, right? Like, I think when they are able to kind of like understand they don't even have like a proper definition of sex, or that their definition of sex is like rooted in something that is malleable, right? Like, that tends to be the common tactic that they turn to, is like, well, you know, it reveals that like what they really care about is the abuse, right? The cruelty of it, of kind of saying that, like, because again, like the same things that they would be abusing a trans woman about, the size of her hands, her shoulder to hip ratio, any of those things. If that trans woman was born with a uterus and met their criteria of like biological sex, female determination, right? They would say, well, none of those things make you a man, because the only thing that makes you a man is your uterus, or is your reproductive biology. And yet those same traits they will criticize a trans woman for, not because she has those traits, but because of her biological, like, reproductive configuration, which, you know, again, like, I guess my point in that is that, like, you know, you can't criticize someone for traits that you would say, like, don't even determine if they're male or female in the first place. If you're going to say that someone's voice or someone's, you know, shoulders or their hands, like don't talk about my, like, don't, like if you're going to say those things make them a man, but wouldn't make them a man, like, then the only thing you have the right to criticize is the ghost of a reproductive system that isn't even present anymore in a lot of situations.
The most recent iteration of my talk that's on my channel, I changed it a little bit for some of the conventions I was going to recently, but kind of reflect what you're talking about here, where I'm like, we can cede all of the ground to your arguments and they still don't hold water. But like, honestly, none of that even matters. And I feel like this is kind of something that I've been saying a lot lately, because like at the end of the day, I don't fucking care if I am like ontologically a woman, or if I'm biologically or, you know, philosophically a woman. I like, it's so besides the point, because like at the end of the day, when I'm operating in society, I'm treated like a woman. When I'm operating in society, it's better for me to use women's spaces than it is for me to use men's spaces, for everyone, myself included. Like at the end of the day, that doesn't have anything to say about the efficacy of gender affirming care, or whether or not I should have documents that reflect my gender identity, or anything to say about, like, you know, they think that something follows from it. Like, oh, if I can just establish that biological sex is real and true, and that you're a big fucking man, then everything else will just fall into place the way I want it. And it's like, it doesn't, though. Actually, like, you get literally nothing from establishing that at all. And so, yeah, I've kind of been on a kick of being like, I just don't care. I don't care if you actually think I'm a woman, or if I'm actually, like, in actuality a woman. I just don't care. It's so not the point, and so like not relevant to my lived experience on a day-to-day basis, or any trans person's lived experience on a day-to-day basis, whether or not we're actually the gender we say we are. And there's like no amount of evidence that we could ever provide that would convince most people who are in these camps. Like, definitely, I think it's good to, if any of you were watching my stream with Jovan earlier today, we literally had this with a caller, where this caller came in saying, you know, kids shouldn't access gender affirming care. And we walked him through, and he agreed with us at every step along the way. Well, actually, kids aren't really being rushed in. Yep, I agree with that. Well, actually, the evidence supports that this improves their quality of life. Yeah, well, I agree with that. Well, actually, we already give this medication to other people. Yeah, well, I agree with that. And then after all of that, he was like, but yeah, you know, I still just don't think kids should have access to this medicine. It's like, you agree that A equals B and B equals C, but you don't agree that A equals C? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And so, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I came into this conversation. I don't know if any of that was relevant to contribute at all, but
no, it was relevant. And I'll also, just to kind of put a you know, cap on the conversation of, I think, as logical actors, I think, I at least when I first started debating, right? I'm gonna go way back, like in college, when I was actually like doing it at a collegiate level, you know, winning medals and doing the thing and practicing, and I had this utopian view of like, oh, if I come up with the right amount of arguments, logically I'll win the debate, and therefore like I'm going to be able to kind of come ahead in the conversation. And I had this collegiate level forensics, that's what they call it in colleges, forensics, is this view of I can logically dismantle people's arguments, so therefore they have to agree with me and therefore cede ground to the fact that I am logically correct. And then I started arguing with people online. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, I have the logical argument. I've walked you through everything like Arden just said, and then they immediately go back to the sewage
Backwards
level logic.
rationalizing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's
like
like they go
starting
back to
with your
this.
conclusion and working backwards from the
Yeah,
conclusion to find logic that justifies the conclusion. And for what
exactly.
it's worth, like I completely I don't want to like misrepresent my intentions in the sense of like kind of suggesting that's my approach, right? Like for me, whenever I notice people are backwards rationalizing, what I tend to go for is, okay, so clearly like there's another route, there's another reason that you're insisting on starting at this conclusion. Like it's almost like a detective work. Like what really is it? Like why is it that like, because obviously it's not the rationalizations you're coming up with to say someone like doesn't want to accept that the earth is older than 6,000 years old, right? And they say
It's
that
a
like,
faith. It's
you
it's
know,
a faith claim for a lot of them, right? It's like I have it on faith that if you're born with the penis, you're a man forever, right? Like that. They
and
don't care about the reasoning. They don't care about the logic. They don't care about anything. It's like trying to convince somebody that their belief is wrong,
so what do
and
they care
is
about then? Like
they care
that's
about
kind of
being
what I'm
right.
asking, right? Is like, well,
They care about
but like
themselves
what's
being
the stake?
perceived right.
And what's the stake for them of like why they want to be right, right? Like for instance, with the the dinosaur bones are planted by the devil thing, right? I grew up in Texas with a lot of those types.
Yeah,
Often, like the real
sure.
reason is like, well, I love my church, I love my family members. The thought of them being wrong not only makes me think that I have to, they might backwards rationalize and say, well, the bones are there because the devil planted them, right? That's starting with your conclusion, working backwards. But like the true root of it is like, hey, I don't want to think that my family members, my loved ones, are incorrect because I really care about this community and they make me feel safe and they make me feel home. And I don't want to lose that community by, you know, realizing that actually we are wrong. I think that's kind of like what's at stake
So
fear-wise for them.
So I will say this, right? I think you can do a lot of understanding. Like you can see people who have come out of cults, for example. There's a lot of really good information about people who found their way out of it and then talk about their explanations of why they were part of it for so long. You also have people who are just like, I thought I was right and I thought that being right was going to save somebody's soul type situation. There are so many different reasons why people believe the way they do. I bet you there are people who legitimately think that if they turn Arden and I into men again, that we are somehow miraculously going to go to heaven and not be going to hell where we are going because we put on girls' clothes.
Right.
Like there are people who legitimately think that, and they think that they're saving our souls because we are trans women and we're degenerate and we are promoting demonic points of view, and there's nothing we can do or say about the logic, the science, the social constructions, the loss of civil rights that are going to convince them otherwise. And then there are other people who just want to be oppressive authoritarians to say, I get to tell you what you are, and if you live that way then I feel better because I have power over you. And then there are people who are just so
Absolutely.
ignorant to belief that they're like, well, biology says that it's this, so therefore it has to be this. And if that's wrong, then my whole worldview is upside down. And then I'm not going to be able to sleep at night thinking I was wrong this whole time and being cruel. There are people who are like, I've been cruel my whole life, and if I'm wrong now, I'm fucked. Right? Like there are so many different reasons why people reverse conclusion things all the time, and the only
Mhm.
way that you can do that is use the epistemological standards of asking people and asking them, why do you believe that way? Well, why do you believe that way? Until you can get to the question, what if you were wrong? Because once you can get to the epistemological interrogation of somebody, and if you can get them to honestly answer the question of what if you're wrong, that's the only time you're ever possibly going to get the answer to the question that you're thinking right now. Right? Because I've had people tell me, well, if I'm wrong, then that means there's no hell. And if there's no heaven, then I just die and go into the darkness. And it's like, okay, is that so bad? Like, you know what I mean? And, or it's like, well, if I'm wrong, that means I was cruel to everybody I was around. And now I have to repent to all those people and say, hey, I'm sorry. I was an asshole to you. Like, the only time you're ever going to get that question, though, is if you get to that answer and get them to answer honestly. At least that's my experience.
And I mean, absolutely, that's why it's so important, I think, to diagnose, because you're right, there are a lot of different reasons why, multiple people with the same conclusion might be afraid of being wrong for different reasons, right? Like, as far as what's motivating them. And, as like, for instance, like to Arden's point around like I don't care if people are, if people think I really am a woman or I'm not a woman, right? Like the whether they think you are a woman or that you're not a woman, right? Like whenever people, regardless of what they think or whether they think why they're afraid of being right or wrong, right? When they choose to engage in behavior that is abusive, cruel, dehumanizing, right? Like, weaponizing someone's dysphoria, right? Which is often like a source of, one of the main factors of suicidal ideation, right? Like to get them to stop, or to get, at least even if they don't stop, to get them socially to be seen as the bully and the asshole they are, not a brave truth teller, but a just a cruel person, right? Like I think when someone is engaging in that kind of behavior, like having a strong oppositional, not like in a debate setting, right? But just like for the person who's maybe the subject of that abuse, like having strong justifications to understand, like, hey, like this person might be saying all these cruel things that haunt me and turn into my inner demons and get me to dissect my body every time I look in a mirror. But at the end of the day, like I also know I also have strong beliefs and strong logic or strong emotional whatever, like that contradict what they're saying, which is that like, hey, even according to it, like if I was born with a uterus, that is none of these things would be something wrong with my body according to the same people that are trying so hard to abuse me. So clearly that doesn't mean that those things are something I need to be ashamed of. Like if hey, like I'm, my hands are too big and my voice is too deep and I'm never going to be a real woman, and that only is the case because of my reproductive biology, then the only thing they have the right to criticize, the only thing that is quote unquote, like male about my body is going to be biology that I may or may not have in a year, right? Like, so
but
at the very least,
you're taking them too seriously. Like that's the issue. It's like
and I'm
there's
not saying I
never
agree with the
anything.
premise.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't agree with their premise either. Right?
Of course.
That's not the point. It's the cruelty. That's what it's about.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's spot on, because like I do think when we're talking about, like theists, like what does it mean if they find out that the dinosaurs actually did exist? And like you're right, for a lot of them it means like everything they've been taught was wrong and maybe now they don't have access to their community or something. But I feel like on this issue, the stakes are not the same. The stakes are genuinely just their superiority in the social hierarchy, and meaning that the cruelty just ends up being the point. I don't think they actually care about the facts or any of the information or the stakes for them. Like, I don't think the stakes are, they're nothing like they are for religion, right? Like, there's no loss of community that you sustain if you find out that all of a sudden gender and sex are different. It's not like people are gonna, like, maybe if you become an outward trans ally, you might lose some people because people are bigoted, but like there's no existential weight to that question in the way there is for the God belief. And I don't know.
From what I hear from like,
and
their
I just want to
perspective-
add this too. Hold on. I want to add this too. They trans investigate themselves. Like they like at the end of the day, it's like they're so in their own shit that they trans investigate themselves. And guess what? Even when they're able to prove I actually I was born with a uterus, and they're like, yeah, right, you freaking trans woman, you freaking, piece of shit man. They've told that to J.K. Rowling, they've told that to all of the top transphobes in the community. So at the end of the
Hence
day,
the
their
internal
own logic of
contradiction.
what you're exactly. So it's just a circling firing squad for them. It's actually funny to watch, right? Because they are falling victim to their own logical traps because of everything that you're saying. So I have no
So here's
sympathy
how
for them, and for me, I just dumpster their whole logical construct.
totally fair. And so this will be the last thing I say, right? Like, just to kind of highlight how this point in particular kind of tends to lead me to my checkmate, as far as like getting them to agree with the position that for me is very easy to kind of dismantle, right? Is the, the reason I highlight this contradiction, this internal contradiction, like, you guys are investigating yourselves, like, what is this? Is because what it reveals is that, like, their true belief, kind of what's truly at stake for them, is not really a belief about biology. It's not a belief about, like, it's honestly like what Arden described as the sex soul, right? Like it's a philosophy of fatalism that, like, what you're born as, you die as, and that's a belief that I need to carry with me, because I won't get into like why they tell me that that's at stake for them, right? But like typically it tends to like reveal how they see their own gender and how that feels threatened by other people. Like if male and female biology is something fluid, then like what does that mean about me, like, and my womanhood or manhood? And that position is a very easy position to checkmate, as far as like kind of pointing out that internal contradiction of, like, what you're born as, you die as, because ultimately, like, if that's what you believe, you need to believe it in every context. And they really, it's very obvious to point out that they don't believe that, what you're born as, you die as is something that applies in any other area of science, biology, or medicine. It's more so a reflection of, like, the in-group is women, and we have solidarity because we're women, and outsiders are men, and we hate men. And therefore, if we allow the people we hate into our group to be one of us, then, then therefore, that's what's at stake for me, is like this kind of invasion mentality. And, once they're able to kind of see that, like, if your definition of the out group is based on, how I've articulated their definition of the sex soul, which is the natural developmental outcome of your genotype resulting in a body organized around the production of a gamete type. What they're really saying is, like, it's what makes me believe what I believe is the natural developmental outcome part, not the developmental outcome part. Because when someone reaches a state where their developmental outcome is organized around the production of large gametes, that doesn't count because it wasn't the natural developmental outcome. Well, then, I tend to then go into the argument of, like, well, then, the biological state of a child with PKU with a genetic disorder who would have died if not from modern medicine is biologically dead, because, that wasn't their natural developmental. A blind person with cataracts, like, they're biologically blind besides having 20/20 vision.
Yeah,
that's
I mean, this
like,
is just for sure, like, catching them on a naturalistic fallacy is definitely easy to do. I mean, they walk into that kind of thing all the time. We do got to wrap it up, Mila. It has been 2.5 hours. I'm exhausted and I want to get the show over with. So I'm going to say goodbye, but thank you for calling in, and we'll talk to you another time. Okay.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right.
Man, I'm still reeling about that call, you guys. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't tell if I'm totally off the mark or if I was gaslit as bad as I think I was. And it's genuinely fucking with me, because I'm like, I don't think I saw some people saying she was a troll. She may have been a troll. I don't know. I'm not that invested in that answer, whatever it is.
This is what happens when you don't go spicy Arden. We are now figuring out what happens when Arden pulls back the spice.
Listen,
She
9 out,
starts having existential crises.
9 out of 10 times, I have no thoughts about it after, because I'm usually pretty careful about, like, I don't jump until you cross a certain line for me. But in that case, when she like tried to switch it and pull it back after I jumped on something, that's what's really fucking with me. Is I'm like, did I misunderstand? But then she did it again. I thought, but maybe I'm totally wrong. And I genuinely want chat to tell me, did I totally fucking miss the mark? Or like, did she say what I thought? Like, I try to be, obviously I've got ADHD. I'm not always the best listener, but with these kinds of things, this is where my like neurodivergent special interest is. So my brain is able to hone in a lot more effectively. And I just, yeah, I see people talking about her tone. I don't really care about that. It was genuinely, I want the specifics. Like, she said that there was a problem with the definition, and that's why we need to come up with a new definition. And then I was like, there's no fixing the definition that's ever going to work. And then she's like, well, I'm not saying that we should fix the definition. And I'm like, but you literally did, though.
Look, the way that she started the conversation was essentially that we come up with a better trans definition was the original claim.
Yes.
That's what it was. And it's like, if we had a better definition for trans in the law, then we would be able to protect trans people better. That is what you heard, and that is what she gaslit away from.
Yeah, and then she was like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the definition. And I'm like, but you literally are. You're saying that if the definition was better, this wouldn't be happening, which means that the definition isn't good, that there's a better one. Like, okay, thank you. That is what I thought happened. Maybe
That's
chat's going to be like,
the goalpost was totally moved into the ocean, like you said. It was like, because it became the question of like, wait a minute, like, it's not our shitty definition that made us lose trans rights. That's kind of like what it was, is like, oh yeah, if you had better definitions around transness, and then it went into this weird conversation about Title IX and the misunderstanding of Title IX. And it was like that's essentially how that conversation ended up going in that context.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the whole Title IX thing felt like a rabbit hole. And like, and so besides the point from her original thing, which was like you saying, we need to come up with a better definition because there's some stuff coming down the road at the Supreme Court, and what we tried before didn't work. So we need a better one. And then I'm like, why would we need a better one? She's like, I'm not saying we need a better one. And I'm like,
it was also a misunderstanding of the Supreme Court and how the Supreme Court sets precedent, right? Like, the idea is it is up to the attorneys to set the law, or set the case. So then the Supreme Court says that is the precedent of how we create law. So legal definitions don't actually get created out in it's very rare does laws actually create legal definitions of things. It's usually the Supreme Court that says, okay, this is the precedent of what this means. And usually that is created through precedent and law creation of like legal precedent. That's what happens. So the fact that now the federal government is trying to create these laws and state governments are trying to create these laws that narrowly define things, that give the Supreme Court leverage to be able to say, see, this is what it says right here. It says adult human female.
Right.
It says biological because the law says that means we have to follow that. But before it wasn't that clear. So it's not trans people's fault that they're the ones writing that into the law.
Yeah. I guess also like her laughing also kind of made me, she was like laughing in response to all of that. That also made me feel like I'm like, okay, you're just fucking with me, right? Like, because there's no part of this that's funny. Like, I get you're laughing right now, but it's more of in like a how ridiculous the situation is kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm so hung up on this. I try really hard to make sure when I pop off, I can walk away and sleep at night comfortable with why. And if I was off the mark, that's going to bother me. But I'm like, but I really don't think
and you were right. You were right to yell and pop off because she was being interruptive. She wasn't letting us finish the point at certain points because we started to eat into her goalposts because we answered the question. Right now, I may have misspoke in the way that I was speaking because it's a long show. of like, oh, this is the sex assigned at birth is not congruent with your gender identity, and I was like, I may have accidentally said opposite at some point. I don't even remember that part of the conversation. But then she was like, oh, trying to grab onto that, and I was like, actually, I misspoke. That's not what I meant at all. I just didn't say congruent. I said something different. Like, I'm dyslexic. I'm sorry. I say different words when I mean other things sometimes. Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's man. Sorry. We can
It's
go on to
okay.
super chats. I think I'm resolved enough on it now. I've been thinking about it nonstop. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, if I'm wrong, I want to know. And I love you, chat, but honestly, I'm asking you guys because I'm hoping there's someone out there who will be honest. But most of the time, you guys are just going to gas me up and say I'm so super right, no matter what I actually said. So
you are completely wrong about Baldur's Gate.
That's true. You will call me out on that.
You up. And the chat will not gas you up there.
Yeah, they'll throw matches on that thing of gas. All right. $4.99 from Sarah Wilson. I'm so happy to catch TACIS live. I don't have my scoreboard up. I'm sorry. It's only working though because I'm working from home. So please, Billy Jimmy, to move the time. Hashtag Team Arden. Hashtag SVN is my fave too. We'll work on it. Listen, along with this Patreon stuff, we've got some like rebranding stuff coming down the pipeline.
We got some good stuff coming.
So there might be something like that to come. I'm not completely sure exactly how or when it'll be, but all right. Thank you.
All right, $5, I think that's Australian, from Charlotte C. With India's High Court ruling that trans women get all the same protections, it might have an influence down the line in America. I wish it worked that way. I wish. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't know if America has ever taken the lead of another country and said, you know what, maybe this other country's got it right and did it their own way. America is stubborn and aggressively arrogant and will be like, we're the ones that came up with that first and then take it. Like, so I don't know. No, it's not going to change a thing. I wish.
I think the scope of that ruling was also narrower than we want to think. I think it was like for the purposes of education or something like that. I was talking to at the Secular Student Alliance convention to an individual who was from India. His family's from India, and he was talking to me about there's different rules in different states, and so it's very disparate what the laws are exactly on trans people there. But yeah. 20 pounds from Jackie Greenland. Hello from a train somewhere in the Midlands. We're getting a new head of the EHRC, and it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's not like both committees objected to her or anything. Hashtag Team Arden. I haven't seen who your new head of EHRC is, but the bar is so low. I mean, it is in hell. You can't. Yeah, I am so sorry. Ugh.
And Jackie, always traveling, jet setter, train setter, everywhere, always everywhere, all at once. $5 from Zurith and Moonpaw. Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag Bards. Bards. See, this is mean to me because I'm dyslexic and I have to like create Bard. SFS. Stand and stand together. Stab together. Yes. Bards stand together and stab together. Yes.
In your defense, I think there's an S and an M between bards and stand. An extra SM that is not supposed to be there. So it was like they did this specifically to fuck with your dyslexia.
It's so easy. It's not fair.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. I saw chat. Someone said, "What is the EHRC?" That's the Equality and Human Rights Commission in the UK. It's like their head of human rights stuff, basically. Who's unsurprisingly anti-trans, because who isn't these days? $5 from Zurith Moonpaw, but also hashtag Team Espion rules. Hashtag Snakes and Zards be cool, yo. Hashtag Matt's better half. Hashtag Team Arden. I don't know if I'm the better half today. I might be the worst half today, but usually I would say I'm the better half. Just kidding.
$5 from Zurith Moonpaul again. Hashtag Team Josie, cause I fucking can. Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh wait, that's a vote. Sorry. My bad.
Yeah, I was watching like a hawk.
My brain is not at full speed right now. $5 from Zorith Moonpaw. Hashtag Team Hugs. Because I had to put down my doggo today, and I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's so sad.
I won't
I'm so
even give you
sorry.
grief for the fence sitter hashtag, considering how serious that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's really sad. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm such an asshole. I did it anyway.
You did it anyway.
$20 from Narcissa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And $20 for Moonquaker. I wonder is China. Oh, I wonder if China is salivating at the mouth, rubbing their hands together, looking at the US saying soon we'll annex them and we'll become West China. Scares the F out of me. What are your thoughts? Hashtag Team Josie. I have not seen anything about us say we're going to annex China. Where was that said?
Oh, I think they're saying they think that we're crumbling so fast that China's going to annex us.
Oh, okay. That's more realistic.
Honestly, though, we've ceded our position as a market and military leader globally. And if we think there won't be consequences for that, I don't know what they are. I'm not a future reader, but I don't think I necessarily think this is going to happen, but I don't think it's the most far-fetched either, you know?
Yeah.
$5 from Blue Eyed Jay. Wait, Arden is able to do activist work and vote? That's impossible. Sarcastic reference to Jovan's stream today. Thank you all for your work. Yeah, we had this person call in and basically try to give grief because apparently he had a call yesterday with somebody who is like an accelerationist, was like, I don't vote. I want the Republicans to win so they destroy everything and we get revolution or something along those lines, you know? And
yeah, because French Revolution worked so well for all the poor and marginalized.
Well, right. And that was kind of Jovan's point was like, well, I appreciate that both systems are, owned by corporate oligarchs and that capitalism is kind of at its roots will never be completely reformable. Like the people we're going to harm along the way, that's a problem. And so you should vote. And this person was like, well, I don't vote because I have better things to do with my time, like organizing. And I'm like, you can organize and vote. Voting takes if you get a mail-in ballot or if you sometimes at certain things you do have to wait a long time, sure. But she was like, well, I had to work and we were like the whole day. You couldn't find any way to vote in spite of that. And she was just being very defensive. And I was like, I've been doing activist stuff for years and years and years and years. And I voted at every option that I've had.
Yeah.
It's really not hard. I mean, I will say my one privilege I do have, she tried to say that my job is so cushy that, and I'm like, I haven't always had this job, first of all, fucking doo-doo head. But also,
content creation isn't that cushy. It's
no, I work so really fucking much. Do I get to be in my PJs at a desk? Absolutely. That is the cushy part of it. But I work a lot more hours than I did at any job I've ever had before. The thing that's cushy about my life for voting is that my closest voting location, there's never anyone there. So I get in and out really fast. And I'm in a major city. Yeah. So that is nice, but that's the closest anyway. Yeah. They were
yeah.
It was really, really bad reasoning all the way through. And they were being very defensive. And Jovan was kind of being like, why is it always these white leftists who are opposed to voting and don't really want to reconcile with who's going to be harmed by the consequences of their not voting?
I wonder why. $10 Canadian from Impish Misconceptions. I'm cis female, 37 years old, and I wonder if I'm a trans male, but I'm not sure. I'm slowly experimenting and having 4 men's shirts that I wear and love. How can I know for sure that if I'm trans? I mean, a lot of cis people don't do that, if you consider it so. I mean, You can't. Well, it's the same type of question that I asked before. It's like, if you can answer the question seriously, if you're cis, if you can't, or if there's a lot of hesitation, then just examine that. So,
Yeah.
enjoy the exploration.
And Fish, I hope you were listening to the call we had with I've forgotten their name already, but the caller a little ways ago was asking basically the same question. That's a journey of
Aspen.
self-discovery, baby. You gotta
It was Aspen.
Aspen, that's right. Yeah, look for their call
Yeah.
and kind of listen, because a lot of the advice we gave to them, we'd give to you. So
Yeah.
$10 from Aiden Swallow. Thank you for the kind words and the plug. I love you all. Love both both of you all's passion and love. Hashtag Team Josie. Thank you so much, Aiden. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. $4.99 from JW Edgy. What's your favorite term for estrogen pills? I usually call them feminims. I like that one. But I'm also a fan of antihistamines, Tit Tacs, and breast mints. I mean, you named the good ones. Titty Skittles is one of them.
Titty Skittles is my
that exists.
go-to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's a good. Antihistamines are pretty good. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think you nailed most of the good ones.
Feminems is also really good. I'll probably use that one.
Yeah.
Another 10 from Aiden Swallow. Gotta run to a meeting, but thank you for grabbing me before I went. We'll try to come back. You all are great. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you. And good luck at your meeting. I appreciate all the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Oops. Wrong button. Oops. There we go.
Oh, antibiotics is a good one too. Antibiotics. I knew there was one that I was missing that had the word boy in it, and I was like, that one's it. That's a good one.
That is good.
Yeah. So 50 New Zealand dollars from Christina Hankey. Josie being OCs. Oh, okay, I see.
Overseas.
I can't donate. Yeah, overseas. Yep. I can't donate to your ticket, but I want to support you by standing. Being a retired TF member of the RN Air Force. I'm guessing that's the New Zealand Air Force. Keep up the wonderful work and make them bastards pay when you're elected in saying all that. Hashtag Team Arden. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The whole chat gassing you up. Oops, not 45.
I know.
Oh my God, can't type. Also, no, never mind. I was going to go on a side tangent. It's not worth it. It's going to take too long to explain. I'm not in the mood. I'm so sorry, chat, to tease you guys. $5 from Murky M. Bucky. Tomorrow is my 1 year on HRT anniversary. I cannot be happier going through my transition. Giving my vote to hashtag Team Josie for living in the same state. Nice.
Go Maryland.
You can also vote for just Josie because you like Josie. That's also okay.
Oh, thank you. $10 from Lady Darkness. How many trans women does it take to change a light bulb? None. Tell her she's beautiful and she'll light up the room. Also,
that's so cute.
Josie, because I haven't forgotten Arden's Boulders Gates comments. Yes, always make Arden suffer for that terrible take.
Listen, I'm someone of principle. If I truly believe in my bad idea, I'm going to commit to it with both feet on the ground. 20
you can be wrong with both feet on the ground.
20 alleged dollars from Untitled Final V2 this version. Batching vote manipulation to avoid being spammy. 4 votes for hashtag Team Arden.
Doesn't work. Okay,
listen, we haven't established the rules. Okay, here I'm going to lay it out for you guys. Until we change the format and we do go through our like rebranding stuff, I have no promises on when exactly that's going to hit, because at the line we talked about ideas way earlier than we should because we're kind of winging it as well.
Yeah.
At that point, we will have clear rules for how much a vote is. If it's $5 per vote and that 20 equals 4 or whatever, right? Until then, I think we should do 1 vote per comment But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Josie just froze on my end. Oh, you're back.
Oh, am I here?
Yes.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. $10 from Aiden Swallow. I never realized I was trans until I started questioning. I was miserable and had major body dysphoria. Had the right trans self-insert musical for my egg to crack and realize it. Hashtag Team Arden. I see you, Aiden. You know, I spent the whole hour with you today.
Musicals will do that to you.
Yeah, it's true.
Another $5 from Untitled Final V2, this version. Speaking of legal cases, hopefully my votes will be counted fairly. Well,
Nope.
define fairly. How you wanted?
Oh, here goes $5 Canadian from Untitled Final V. This version, vote hashtag Team Josie while Arden is gone. You were gone. You
Fair
were
enough.
gone. Yeah.
$5 from Marceline. Tangerine living under a Palpatine. I would love to end this regime, and then at least 1,000 years in between. Hashtag Team Liability.
That is you.
I'll take it. Oh, shit. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Yes. Also, I got Tangerine Palpatine from Seth Andrews, so full credit. I mean, I don't think he came up with it either, but that's where I heard it.
$5 from Domestic. Braving Act Blue again. Oh well. I hope your run is successful, Josie. You'd be great. Thanks for stepping up in Arden. Hashtag Team Arden. Stepping up in you.
Stepping in. I don't know where I stepped in. I've stepped in.
Stepped in.
I've stepped in a lot.
You have.
I only hate Act Blue because no matter how many times I say stop fucking texting me, I get so many texts all the time.
It's not them. It's the predatory companies that are using their link. The problem is Act Blue doesn't ban that shit.
Yeah.
They know that their texts are getting spammed that way, but they don't care.
I imagine they sell the data. They sell the number, and then predatory companies buy it, and
I don't think Act Blue sells it. I don't think that's the case. It's the other companies and the consultants that work with candidates, and then they sign in the contracts that once your campaign is over and we fundraise for you, we're going to use your data all over the place. It's BS like that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm referring to, I guess. But
so this is here's a fun, terrible fact. So when candidates lose elections, especially big candidates that like lose elections, they then sell their list to reclaim debt. So they sell their list to companies that then bundle those contacts. That's why you're getting all those spammy texts, is because a candidate lost their ethics because they lost their race, and they're like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And then they sell their list to get themselves out of debt.
Well, that's kind of what I was referencing. I'm imagining that our data is being sold like in a brokerage to some degree, and that's kind of how our numbers
to a brokerage from a candidate that lost most of the time to pay off their campaign debt.
Yeah. Not surprised, but I get it.
Dark underbelly.
I'll take it.
I will not ever sell my list, by the way.
It's a small price to pay to. Sorry, go ahead.
I will never sell your data or list. If you donate to me, I will not sell your list. I promise.
Oh, okay. Random side tangent since we're on selling data. Can we say that, like, why has no politician tried to make a stake on data rights, data privacy rights as a policy issue? That to me feels like one of the most important things right now, especially in the age of AI. This should be really concerning to a lot of people, and nobody talks about it at all. Like, I think I've heard one politician, I can't even remember exactly who it was, that had some sort of proposed thing on data or was like informed during like a Senate hearing or something on data rights, but like nobody knows anything about this. I'm like, this is so important. Our data is in this like black market zone being sold, and it's so fucking like I mean, I'm assuming part of the reason they don't want to is because not having rules and regulations on that data means they can do whatever the fuck they want with it, which is very authoritarian. Surprise, surprise. But
Me and Brianna Tatone, who's a representative in Colorado, were having a conversation about this just the other day, that we need to create a law that doesn't allow apps on your phones to automatically turn on your microphone. And if people need to be able to opt in to make your microphone be always on. Like right now, everybody, I'm going to tell you right now, you go check your Facebook settings right now on your app. If you go to the apps and you go to the Facebook abilities, you will see that the microphone is on currently right now, and it is listening to you. It is happening right now if you speak. If you do not turn that off, you have to turn it off. You have to go into your settings and turn that off. And I would do it for all your apps. If they have your microphone on, like, they're listening to you right now. Like, I hate it so much. We should make that illegal.
No, I agree. And I understand that, like, they benefit from not having these rights because they can sell them or give them to, companies or organizations or countries or whatever. But I just feel like this would be such a good policy to grab a lot of people on. Like, one, everyone's scared about their data privacy right now. It would be a huge pool of people to tap into, like, a fear-based thing, since that's how we fucking do politics now. And it would be such a winning issue, I think. Who's going to object to, like, you deserve to have rights over your data privacy, and, like, the companies who are making billions of dollars off of selling your data to, like, these black market organizations, like, we're going to, like, stop that and go after them. That person would get so many votes so fast on that issue. I feel like Democrats are just leaving so much shit on the table. But again, I'm sure it's because it benefits them too.
I'm gonna be super doomer about it. People don't care about policy that much. Like, when people vote, they vote on vibes. They don't vote on people's policies, because the second you start talking to policy, people's eyes glaze over. You have to talk about the only thing that they care about. And as soon as you start veering off that path, people's eyes glaze over and they stop listening, and they already forgot your name. And policy does not actually lead to good voter outcomes. So, for example, everybody knows we should regulate gun control. But why does it pass every time with 89% of the vote when we try to fight it, right? Or the same thing with, like, the whole Israel stuff. It doesn't matter what voters care about. The politicians will be able to vote the way they vote because people have not held them accountable. Nobody is holding these representatives accountable to their terrible shit.
I agree. I just think there's a missed opportunity on the table for Democrats to get I think there's a good vibes-based thing of, like, these shadow corporations, these government entities, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, is harvesting your data. Like, I think there's a good angle in there that's just never exploited. And I'm like, it also really matters just, like, on a factual basis, but nobody seems to care. But anyway.
But the second the government does it, everybody loses their fucking minds. But all of us just assume it's like, yeah, corporations are listening to us. That's just common knowledge. Why do we care? It's like, what? Like, why are we just taking that as a status quo? Like, it is so weird that we just let private corporations do whatever the hell they want. But the second the government says, hey, we want to regulate something, everybody's like, the government's doing something. It's like, it's so frustrating. Anyways, you could get me on a soapbox on that one. It's just
hey, apply for a LineCon Online Live, LineCon Mini, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be doing a lot of those.
Good. We need it so bad. And again, payout is really good. Content's going to get reposted here. Longevity, better ad revenue share. Good for hosts. And good for you guys. Like, super entertaining and good information.
Yeah,
I don't get that cut unless I'm producing that, but, like, we're bringing on new people, so it's not necessarily mine. But anyway, we have super chats. And because I told Untitled V2 that we weren't going to do it that way, and now they're spamming chat again. So,
oh, goodness.
$4.99 from JWIG. Aspen, I feel you, XJW transitioning. Feel free to reach out or don't. Do what is best for you. What feels best for you? Much love. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
$10 from Shinobi Saw. My 13-year-old child seems to be more like gender fluid to me, but I get that's not really my call, but I want to talk to them about the concept. I think it may be helpful for them. How can I have that conversation? Just be like, "Hey, I accept you for whoever you are." You know that? Like, you don't even have to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna teach you about queer education." Like, I guarantee you at 13, they probably already know. But it's one of those situations where you can just like be like, "Hey, if you ever want to talk to me about anything, I'm here to love you. Whatever you have to say." Just that's all. That's how
100%.
I would approach it.
Absolutely. If the kid feels safe and knows that you're a good pro LGBT person, they're going to know that they can come to you when they need to. So, yeah, that's the best you can do in my view as well. We got $10 from Jessica Gallagher, a cis woman here. Assuming y'all have had top surgery, how long did you have to sleep on your back after surgery? Any tips for diehard side sleepers? So not only am I a side sleeper, I'm a chest sleeper. So it took me probably a month before I could sleep on my chest again. But honestly, I kind of feel like it made the shape a little bit better because I'm like, if you're kind of pushing them down, they tend to ride up. Sorry, I'm just touching my breast and like, whatever, who fucking cares? We're talking about surgery. They tend to ride up after surgery and be stiff. And I felt like laying on top of them after that first month actually kind of helped them loosen up and like sit a little better. But it was only I slept on a chair for the first week. So that way I wouldn't be tempted to roll over or anything. And then I think I had kind of pillows supporting me after that. And then after a month, I was like, fuck it, I'm sleeping on my chest again.
Oh yeah, I all natural here. But I will say though, after bottom surgery, you're not supposed to sleep on your side either. And yeah, it sucks. I usually put a pillow between my legs. That's how I usually did
Me
it for
too.
a while. Or just get woken up by the pain. One of the two things happened. So,
Oof. Oh boy.
fun.
Oh, I'm so glad I read this one. That means, first of all, I didn't give you your
Oh,
point.
sweet.
Let me do
Yeah.
that. And I'm so excited that you get this one.
Oh no. Okay. $10 for Mr. Bariqua. Am I supposed to do the Cockney accent? Oh no,
yeah.
this is the first time that this has happened to me. I've always had the opportunity to miss this.
This is
every
beautiful.
time. No! Okay. Alright, Kayla. Oh my god, I'm so bad. Alright, Kayla. What ya in the bloody hell eve ya going in yo dead bruv? You are you real, or am I about to run off mad and mad? The bullocks e spew really mad me off. What a waste, no being hones. I'm so bad. I need to work on my Cockney accent now. I'm gonna do it because I need to do it for my D&D game anyway. I just need to make a character with the Cockney accent. That's what I'm gonna do, Mr. Betty.
That was better entertainment than any punishment we could ever deliver. Thank you for that. That was fantastic.
And if you like that, go to Josie.com and donate for my pain.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah. I'm still going to be thinking about Kayla for like another week, I think, but hopefully I'm going to listen to it back and hopefully I'll get over it.
Oi, Kayla. Oi.
$5 from Haley G. I have some more money. I love Josie, but Arden was beat down pretty bad last week. So I got to go #Team Arden. Yeah, I had a lead at the beginning and then Lux totally kicked my ass. So
yeah, Team Lux is a sleeper. They like that team will come in quick.
Yep.
$20 from Mr. Bariqua. Aspen, I can empathize with you on the hesitation. I've had some hang-ups before I was able to come to grips with my sexuality. Despite being a very welcoming person toward others, you're not alone. #Team Josie.
Nice.
It's gonna be a close one.
I've got this like thing that's been stuck in my tooth for a day. I'm sorry. I just have I have my whole finger in my mouth. I've tried, girl. I tried everything to get it out last night and I cannot get it out and I don't understand what's happening. It stressed me out a little.
You gotta like do the whole like flossy thing and you just gotta get under that tooth.
I'm like,
it hurt.
Anyway, that was why I had the hook in my mouth. I was like, oh, that's being so rude. But it hadn't bothered me all day today and now it just started bothering me again.
Did you eat popcorn? If it's a kernel, it's the worst.
I thought that, but I hadn't eaten popcorn last night. I did have this like HEB trail mix that was like Texas heat. And so I think it was something in there. But I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. $5 from Jessica, doo-doo McButtface. 1 point to Arden for your Espeon drawing that you weaseled out of the atheist mechanic. I give you this one. Hashtag Team Arden. Hashtag love you soon. Hashtag Espeon still sucks. Hashtag war not over. Yes. For those of you who didn't watch the hang up last night, regular chatter, the atheist mechanic, has been watching our beef, Jessica and I, and they went to NanoCon last weekend and brought me a drawing of Espeon with a drawing of Growlithe that had like a red circle and a cross through it. It was really cute.
Nice.
Yes.
5 pounds from the Fuzzy Logic. Meow Arden, you're right. The call was odd, and I was really put off by the shifting goalposts for proof. I am just gassing you up. Hashtag Team Josie.
Listen, when you get into YouTube, it's genuinely hard to know how to respond to criticism and praise because I'm like, everyone is like biased it really heavily in both directions in a way that's not good. Anyway, $5 from Lady Darkness. In light of that ruling, I'll fund the voter manipulation. Hashtag Team Arden +1 of 3. Okay.
Ooh, this is gonna be close. Maybe,
boy.
maybe not. I don't know. $5 from the Untitled Final V. This version. Hashtag Team Democracy. Hashtag Team Josie. That's what I like to see.
Okay, that implies I'm not Team Democracy, which I find offensive. Transphobic.
Is it offensive?
Hashtag Team Arden 2 out of 3 from Lady Darkness. Thank you.
Is it offensive or accurate? You know, sometimes the truth hurts, Arden. Maybe that's what it is.
Listen, you can try to drag me down to your level of politics, but I will always take the high road.
Oh,
everyone knows that about me.
Yeah. High road Arden. Yeah, that's
what they call me.
5 Canadian from Untitled Final V. This version. Hashtag Team Don't Suppress the Vote. Hashtag Team Josie. See, Untitled Final V. This version knows the truth. All right.
Listen, they just want to spam votes because they think it's funny. Lady Darkness, 3 out of 3 for Team Arden. Thank you so much, Lady Darkness. I really appreciate you. You're doing such good, positive work in the world.
Yeah. $5 Canadian from Untitled V. This version. Hashtag Don't Steal the Vote. Hashtag Team Josie. That's what I like to see.
See,
right there.
This is the real voter manipulation. I actually have a good lead, and then Untitled Vinyl V2, this version, comes in and dumps a bunch of votes, stuffing them for the other team.
And you're calling them vinyl now? $5 Canadian from Untitled Final V2. This version. Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag not Team Arden. Not counting my votes.
Another one from them. Hashtag Team Don't Deny Democracy. That's me, right? I'm Team Don't Deny Democracy. I am Team Pro-Democracy.
No. You can't self-brand yourself with lies.
How do I always get somebody else goes really hard for something and then I get called the opposite of that? This is how it started with Katie and Mayo. Katie's like, Mayo's the worst thing in the world. And I'm like, I don't know, it's not bad. And then everyone's like, Arden's pro-Mayo. And I'm like, I'm neutral on Mayo, but okay.
No, we all know you're not neutral on democracy, okay? Like, it is.
This is some bullshit. This is cheating. This is rigging. $5 from Untitled Final. Hashtag Team Thanks Mods. Like 789. Hashtag. There we go.
Hashtag $5.
There's still 4 more of these left.
Yes, Untitled Final V. This version. Team Ben 10. Hashtag Team Josie.
You guys are sick. Sick in the head. Untitled final V2 this version. Hashtag team don't support vote suppression. Hashtag team Josie. This is voter suppression. You guys don't even know what you're talking about.
$5 Canadian from Untitled Final V2 this version. Hashtag stop oppressing me. Hashtag team Josie.
Hashtag
Never.
team Josie. Hashtag team trans allies. What? You're right. I'm becoming transphobic. This is my transphobic arc. It starts today. Move over, Blair White.
$5. You'll make more money. Hashtag $5 from Untitled Final V this version. Hashtag Team Josie. I won't be close. It won't be close. You're right. You're right. Self-fulfilling prophecy, which I will accept humbly,
Messed
of
up.
course.
$5 from Mr. Boricua 10. Yeah. Popcorn is one of the worst foods to exist. I will die on this hill. Anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. Hashtag Team Josie. I love popcorn. It's so good. And it's like not exactly healthy for you, but it's not as unhealthy for you as most other satisfying snacks are. I really love popcorn, but that's not what caused this problem.
Sounds like popcorn apologetics. $10 Canadian from Alia. Wait, Ayla? I can't pronounce that name. Help me. Ursu.
Ayla? I think Ayla or something.
Ayla. That's it. Thank you. Almost missed the super chats. Hashtag Team Josie. Thank you.
Almost missed them. I don't know what that even means. Another one from Ayla, $10. This is the only way I'm allowed to vote for Josie. Hashtag Team Josie.
Aw, thank you.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, we're splitting this money evenly, so. Yeah.
$5 Canadian from Untitled Final V this version. Hashtag Team Josie. The high road is called Josie. Exactly. See?
Yeah, Josie's high. I knew it.
Oh, is that what it is?
Knew it. $5 Canadian from Untitled Final V2 this version. To be fair, it is funny. Hashtag Team Josie. It's a little bit funny. I'll give you credit there.
It is a little bit funny. Yeah.
$5 from A Krennic. Hashtag Team Arden. Oh my god, thank you. I've always wanted a pity vote.
Yeah, you've been getting. You already have 15. 5 Canadian from.
Your entire vote count is from this one user. I'll remind you.
No, anyone. There's several others. Don't even take their votes away. Their voices matter too. Hashtag
This is
Team
way more
Josie,
than half of your vote count.
Is pro mayo.
Sure. You know, back when we did like food punishments in the early days of TACIS, we were going to have one of us like have to like eat mayo like straight out of the jar. And I might like mayo, but even that is disgusting to me.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yes, somebody said movie popcorn is very unhealthy. I know. I like to like I will even sometimes pop my own popcorn, okay? I'm that bougie. Do I have microwave popcorn in my pantry right now? Yes, I do.
Well, my partner will literally make the popcorn in a pan. That's
Yeah,
how bougie she is.
I love it. You put a nice thin layer of oil, like, and then just dump all the like a layer of kernels onto the bottom of a pot. It's great.
Yeah, and
I even think it tastes better sometimes.
Put some salt, put some sugar on there, and like make them kettle style. Yeah.
Yeah. $5 from Chris Frank, who said Team Arden. True. H. Team Arden H. Who doesn't disagree? who? Yes. So right.
Oh, $5 from Chris Frank. Team Arden I. What is the HI? Is it going to spell?
Oh, just are they saying hi?
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Hey, Chris Frank.
I've been playing a lot of Blueprints.
Oh,
which is a great puzzler, by the way. It's so fun. If you gotta watch, if you like puzzle games, play it because it might be game of the year. It's so good.
Matt Play was playing that a ton earlier this year. Yeah,
it's so good.
Also, I realized I missed this one ages ago. This one's from Daniel. Who said hashtag Team Arden. Thanks, Daniel.
Oh, nice.
Blah, blah, blah.
5 Australian dollars from Charlotte C. Foreigners buying up American elections. Everything is normal here. Hashtag Team Arden.
See? Thank you, Charlotte. That's what I'm talking about. These fucking foreigners. You guys are going to make me xenophobic. $9.99 from Sierra. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you, Sierra. I haven't seen you in chat in a while. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Oops. There we go.
$10 Canadian from Untitled Final V version. 2 votes for our Team Arden. Nope, just 1.
Wow. You know what? I'm going to give myself 2. You know what? It doesn't even matter because this is the last super chat and I can't win.
Fair.
So $9.99 from Evan Youssef. Do you think that religiosity makes people more inherent to other groups of people? And since religion is most likely man-made, how do we move past something that seems to be innate to humans? Inherent, like, okay, like people just tend to be religious. Sure. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of like a vestigial thing, you know? I think that, well, it used to be so dominant. One of the largest growing groups is the religious nuns. And while they aren't necessarily atheists, a lot of them are like spiritual or into like astrology or something. They are one of the most dominating groups and most fast growing groups in the United States, at least amongst millennials, is my understanding. I think Gen Z is less big, but what I've actually been on a big kick about, I spent a lot of time talking to the people at American Humanist Association over the last few weeks, their leadership there. Genuinely, guys, I'm considering like making a video called like "I'm done with atheism," and being like, not because I'm really done with atheism, because I think it would be catchy.
What religion are you now?
So I'm still an atheist, but I genuinely think humanism should be a bigger focus, because humanists, you can be in almost any other belief group and be a humanist, but humanists are going to be aligned on almost all of the political issues that matter to the left, because they value science, they value facts, they value empathy, they value the well-being of others. Those are like some core principles of humanism. And so genuinely, I really would love to see a much more massive focus on humanism in the future and bringing these sort of like a sort of cultural, philosophical, like ethical framework that can be accessible to mass groups of people, that can feel kind of like a religion, but isn't going to carry the baggage that religions do. And so I don't know, that's kind of what's been on my mind a lot lately. I really, really want to see people push that more. They're doing so much good work. They're starting a like creator fund where they're actually going to be, finally, some organization on the left is going to start rivaling the right at trying to dump money into the pockets of progressive creators who are going to support humanist values to start, you know, competing in the marketplace of ideas with finances, because we don't have anything like they do on the right. And that's what the American humanists are trying to bring to the left, which I'm like, nobody else is doing that. They need so many eyes on them right now. They need so many people supporting them, so many more members. You should all go to the American Humanist Association website and see if being a member is something you're interested in. I think it does cost a small amount for your membership, but it's like pretty trivial in comparison to what you're supporting with them as an organization. And I'm going to be having their executive director on in the near future, and potentially their president. I haven't actually talked to her about this as much. I've only talked to their executive director in length about this. But she's also great. I just did a thing with her at DanoCon this past weekend. Yeah, I don't know. That's where my mind is. So, but we also have more super chats from this fucking person.
$10 Canadian from Untitled version V2 this version. Hashtag Team Josie. Just because.
I'm so over you. I'm gonna ban you from chat. No, not really. You give too much money to the channel. $5 Canadian from Untitled Final V2 this version. Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag Let's Reform Voting. Hashtag because money shouldn't count. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that I was reading money shouldn't count for a bit, but that's not what it says. So.
Know what's on your mind. $5 Canadian from Untitled Final V2 this version. Hashtag just effing with Team Arden. Hashtag Team Josie.
How does
It's
it feel that
working.
your votes aren't an
Keep it up.
endorsement of you or anything you stand for, but they're just about fucking with me? I mean, you are basically like MAGA, like, it's all about making the liberal tears.
Is that what you're trying to brand me? Is that what you're trying to say? That I'm Team MAGA?
Listen, if the shoe fits.
Oh.
Hashtag team mods and crew and even the producer. Oh, that's a vote for me. I'll take it since that's the last one.
Yeah.
And you've clearly destroyed me.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was what is our punishment? What do I actually have to defend? Cis men can only speak after meow. Okay. I actually love this one. That's so funny. All right,
Yeah, and
so
while Arden is doing that, my campaign manager has been blowing up my phone saying, "Where are you? You need call time. What are you doing?" So make my campaign manager know that this time was worth it and donate to my campaign. JosieForMaryland.com is where you can find it. Prove my campaign manager wrong. That is what we need to do right now. Because
if you need to go, you can go.
I'm not going.
Okay.
I'm going to be here
okay.
because I am a woman of the people, okay? And the people are here.
Okay. Let me just get this last thing and then, all right, we should be good. So let's charge up the clock. All right. 3. Oh, time's going. All right. So for too long, cis men have been allowed to talk whenever they felt like it. Between podcasts, holding offices that they are not qualified to hold, and leading organizations where they perpetuate abuse, cis men have repeatedly opened their mouths, or it would be better if they just shut the fuck up. So I'm proposing a new law. Cis men can only speak after they give us a sincere meow. That way, if they send any kind of bullshit our way after that, we can at least laugh at them and realize that this is just some fucking guy. He has no qualifications. There's no reason we should listen to him or anything he has to say. There's no reason we should be watching his podcast or making him a millionaire, letting him talk to world leaders, and pretending like their contribution is meaningful. We should mock them and force them to mock themselves. So join me in voting for this bill that will force cis men to humiliate themselves. Now, I do understand that there is some concern that meow may be a bit of an imperialist perception on this, which is why we are also going to allow men to say nyan before they start. You're able to do the Japanese version if that is better for you, as long as you sound stupid. And if you wear ears, also little cat ears, fuzzy cat ears, you only have to do it once per 10 minutes, and then you can kind of talk uninterrupted, but you do have to wear the cat ears for the entire rest of your life. So yeah, I think this is just a way to help restore equality in discussions and representation, because people will stop electing men if they look and sound stupid when they're talking. So yeah, thank you guys. This is degrading to cat girls, and I am sorry for that, but it's a necessary evil.
It is, and let's institute the law here on the line to show how well it works. So we'll start with Jimmy, Matt, Forrest. Definitely Forrest. He's definitely got to be nailed with this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All those diatribes have to be followed, or have to be followed. Those diatribes got to say meow first.
All right, chat. Let's get Josie out of here. Go support her campaign. Is it JosieForMaryland.com? Is that
JosieForMaryland.com is where my website is, and that's where the donation link is as well. Go do it. Go. Let me
Open
start
your
my call
pockets.
time nicely. Yeah, that would be nice. Let me open up that Act Blue and see some good stuff. Also,
That's
join
right.
the Patreon because there's a lot of new content. You got to be on this list, and there's a lot of really great stuff that's coming. We're gonna have uninterrupted rants by the host. Okay, like who doesn't want that?
Okay. Later, losers.